journalism, where brave men and women gave voice to the voiceless. But then the corporations bought the journalist, poisoning the news that we are fed. With those tainted sources, all we ever ate was a steady diet of status quo. This hijacked narrative hid the truth of mass suffering, injustice, and corruption throughout our land. Status quo, status quo, status quo, status quo. To expose this shift to oligarchy came a band of honest journalists. They left the studio and hit the streets to give the microphone back to the people. From sea to sea, the people were empowered to share their truth. Their voices no longer stifled, reclaimed their power. Join the media revolution now.
Hey there, Jordan Sheridan live, Sunday, May 10th, 2020. Happy Mother's Day to all the wonderful mothers out there trying to nurture the great boys and girls of America. A lot of mothers can't spend time with their children in person today, so hopefully we could be a good backup plan if you're a mother watching today. You can't see it, but I have a very interesting shirt on today. Some might say profound shirt on today. Hold on, let me make sure the connection's okay. Is your connection good? You're seeing it? Okay. Hold on.
I'm still letting the ad run.
Oh, letting the ad run. 1 second, folks. Ugh, God, I need a new computer. Oh, boy. Let's see if it's working on my phone. Okay. Looks like it's working. So, yes, I did shave. Cabin fever makes you bored. So I did shave. Not sure if I'll ever do it again, but we'll see. So, I'm wearing a shirt today, as you can see. I think it is representative of the capitalist order and how a lot of us feel. So we'll be getting into Mr. Bezos and other capitalist miscreants taking advantage of this pandemic for their own profit and personal gain. So you can't see it because I can't figure out a camera angle where it will show while I sit, but we'll work on that. So we have some exciting announcements to make. My computer is loading pretty slow, so give me 1 minute. We passed $100,000 on our GoFundMe. A major, major milestone. Not easy to raise $10,000, let alone $100,000. We launched the GoFundMe, I think, like a year and a half ago. We kind of took, pauses where we weren't really promoting it, but we recently passed $100,000 the other day. Thank you. We have nearly 1,500 of you. 1,500 of you that have donated. So really, really appreciate everybody who has donated, particularly those who are donating now. I know it's not easy as people get laid off, as people fear getting laid off, all of that. So we really, really appreciate your contributions and keep us going. We have lost a good number of members, unfortunately. So GoFundMe right now is definitely appreciated. Jen's taken off for Mother's Day, so I'll be coming live to you and trying to drop in the link as I can. Let me delete some stuff off my browser because my computer is acting up right when I go live. Hold on, folks. Yeah. I just gotta. Hold on. Stick with me. This is why we have the GoFundMe, because I'm definitely gonna need a new computer, it seems. Hold on. If only I had the big budget. Okay. Stick with me. Don't go anywhere. Quit Google Chrome. And while I figure out my computer, thank you, Kadeem Midget. Kadeem Midget. $10 in the super chat. Hey Jordan, huge fan of the show. Congrats on 100K. Well deserved. You guys should check out Shaniat Chowdhury, socialist veteran running for Congress in New York, District 5 against longtime incumbent Gregory Meeks. Yes, definitely send us. I tell people who want us to interview candidates, send us the info at info@statuscoup.com. We get a ton of emails, but I'll try to interview her for sure. Or him. Sorry if I'm getting it wrong. So let me just delete a couple things off my computer. By the way, Colin is getting us some options, but I'm probably going to need a new computer. As you can see, the buffering that's going on. My laptop has gotten as far as I think it's going to get. I'm going to need a stronger computer with faster processing, more, what does he call it? RAM? I'm not a tech wizard. Because this computer does not have enough whatever is needed to go live and do all the things I need to do without buffering and all that stuff. So let's get to it. By the way, remember, we need every single one of you to smash the like button. The more people that press the like button, the more people will see this live stream. Very, very important. It's the thumbs up button right under the video. Also, if you got a text message that we were live, it's because you're on our text list. So please, please, please text 370-370 and type in COUP. That's 370-370, type in COUP to get on our text list. It's a great way for us to get around all of this suppression that we're dealing with YouTube. Follow us at Status Coup. We're live on Twitter right now. I think we just hit 32,000 subscribers on Twitter, so we're growing. Follow us on Twitch. We are live there. That's important. We're slacking on Twitch. We only have like 400 followers. So we need everyone. Sign up for twitch.tv/Status Coup. Thank you for the super chat. Lily Rowe, $2. LUX sucks. I don't know who LUX is, but you rock. And join our email list, statuscoup.com. Enter your email so we could grow there. We're also trying to grow our Instagram. We are trying to be like the cool kids. So Instagram.com/statuscoup. We're posting short clips of our interviews and other photos and behind the scenes kind of things at Instagram. So definitely follow us on Instagram.com/statuscoup. And even though we have hit $100,000 on our GoFundMe, our goal, and just to keep it transparent and all that, our goal is, hold on. Our goal is $110,000. And originally our goal, Jeff Bezos donated. Thank you, Jeff, $5. Sorry for the shirt. If you came late, here's the shirt, baby. Who sent me this shirt? Do you remember?
I don't remember.
I want to give the company a shout out, but I forget which company sent it. If you're watching and you're the company that sent it, leave it in the chat so I can give you kudos.
Was that like fake MSNBC?
Yeah, I also have a MSDNC shirt.
Yeah, I think maybe it was.
Yeah, but I don't know the company name. So keep it coming if you can in the GoFundMe. I had one person send me a very nasty message. Jordan, it is a global pandemic. How dare you try to raise money? First of all, whoever sent me that, I would like to keep the lights on for Status Coup. We have lost, it's actually lower now, we have lost over 100 paid members because of the economic collapse. And because we're not fake progressives, because we don't go behind the scenes and sell out and take money from big banks, fossil fuckers, big pharma, big real estate, Silicon Valley, we are dependent on you, the viewer. So we always say, if you can't donate, no problem, we totally get it. There is an economic disaster right now. They say unemployment's at 14.7%. My gut is real unemployment, probably closer to 20%. So we totally get it if you can't donate, but we are trying to raise money to offset the membership losses we are experiencing. And because we can't go in the field safely right now, really the only way that we could keep Status Coup going, we want to obviously pay Jen, Colin, myself. Jamal's doing some stuff for us behind the scenes. We also need money to advertise. We're also going to need money because I need a new computer if you're noticing the buffering going on while I'm live. This computer is just not equipped. It doesn't have enough RAM or whatever the hell the tech term is for me to go live flawlessly. So I need a new computer. We also, frankly, have an opportunity right now to buy the top of the line live view. Live view is what we use when we're live in the field to broadcast. We have the Live View 300, which is second best. We want the Live View 600, and Live View right now is willing to. We could get it for $8,000. Normally it would be $16,000. So we're trying to raise a little extra cash to get the top of the line so that when we could get back in the field, we have the best equipment. So now that we're all done with that, definitely contribute whatever you can. Our goal is $110,000, so we're $10,000 away. Let's get right to it. We're almost at 79,000 deaths in America. And experts are saying different things. Experts, on one hand, are saying they think that might be understated and it might be higher than that. Whereas other more conservative, Trump fanatics, whatever, are saying they think that death count is overstated. Whichever side of the fence you are, and it's really sad that even the death count is being politicized, because everything is now politicized in our culture. There is a really, really horrific amount of Americans losing their lives right now. We could all agree on that. And it's almost at 79,000. What is the link to the GoFundMe? Let me get it for you. Oh, Anat is dropping it in. Jen's taking the day off on Mother's Day, spending time with the kiddies, much deserved. So my lovely lady, some might say, does some motherly tasks for me on a daily basis. Is helping out in the super chat. This is a super chat, so keep it coming. You could, what's the Twitch channel? Twitch.tv/Status Coup. Twitch.tv/Status Coup. And remember, we got 240 people watching already. Only 160 of you have pressed that like button. I need another 100 to press that like button. By the way, a little tease. We've got a huge show. Guess who we have interviews with today? We got Ben Norton from the Gray Zone. Woohoo! We got Paula Jean Swearingen, a wonderful progressive candidate for Senate down in West Virginia. We also have Harold Frazier, the chairman of the Cheyenne River Sioux tribe in South Dakota. If you don't know, the governor of South Dakota is basically trying to demand that Cheyenne River Sioux shut down its checkpoint on its own territory for COVID-19. Cheyenne River Sioux tribe has a checkpoint to make sure the people passing through the reservation don't have COVID. Well, the South Dakota governor, like many white politicians, are demanding that the Cheyenne River Sioux tribe shut down a checkpoint on its own land. So we have an interview with Harold Frazier. I think it's extremely important. I try my best to show what's going on and the exploitation, white privilege, and frankly, greed and corruption of our federal government on a consistent basis against indigenous tribes and indigenous people. So, thank you, Rosin Mike, $2. Thanks for the hard work. Thank you. So, first we got to start with this. Make no mistake, I maybe more than others, cover Democratic corruption extensively, but we can't let Donald Trump have a pass here. The death count would have been much lower if President Trump would have listened to medical experts and advisors early on in late January, early February, rather than listening to Sean Hannity, Rush Limbaugh, and the people from Duck Dynasty. Okay, President Trump, his inaction, his laser focus on re-election, and 24/7 media attention that he depends on has killed more Americans that needed to be killed. It doesn't matter if Jesus was the president. People were going to die from this. This is a deadly, deadly pandemic. If you don't know, I've had it. I was tested positive for it. Thank God, I recovered and I'm on the mend now. But a lot of people have lost their lives needlessly, and the buck stops with President Trump. So my attention right now on Joe Biden does not remove the ultimate fault here is Trump. Also, fault lies with Governor Cuomo of New York, who has been pushed up as some type of new Jesus, even though he delayed on issuing a lockdown. He never issued a lockdown, and people have died because of it. He's been trying to cut Medicaid by $2.5 billion here in New York during a global pandemic. He refuses to raise taxes on billionaires and millionaires here in New York. And he essentially, to him, the biggest problem is homeless people on the subways, not the New York being the ranked number one among states in income inequality. So Andrew Cuomo is not your friend, and his inaction on issuing a lockdown, I don't give a damn what civil libertarians have to say about it. There should have been a lockdown in America, and there should have been a lockdown in New York. I believe saving lives comes before your freedom to go out and act like an idiot during a deadly pandemic. Just my thoughts, personally.
You have 3 super
I know I have 3 super chats.
You're
Getting to.
asking me to tell you.
I know. You know, when you're in a flow, I want to speak to the peeps, but I gotta keep going. Let's thank our super chats. Suffrage Jim, $10. This may be another topic you may want to cover. Nursing schools are wanting students to sign disclaimers in regards to not having proper PPE and go to clinical in hospitals anyway. This is dangerous. Oh, of course. You know, it's like Mitch McConnell and the Republicans want their top priority is getting companies, carpet, blanket liability shields so that as those companies force workers to come back and basically risk their lives during a deadly pandemic, those companies will face no liability, and that does not surprise me that nursing schools are wanting students to sign disclaimers. I mean, what kind of system, what kind of country is this? Well, it's not a country. Look at the flag behind me. We live in the United Corporations of America, and if it wasn't evident before, it should be evident now. Thank you for the $10. Email me more info if you can, suffragim, info@statuscoup.com. Jason Milton, $12. What do you think about Elon Musk freaking out because his Tesla plant is ordered closed by California while forcing people to work closely during a pandemic? The billionaires don't care for workers. Jason Milton, let me tell you what I think. And I'm not going to go in depth. And by the way, we got almost 300 people watching. Only 200 of you have pressed that like button. I need another 100 people. Please press the like button right under the live stream. The more people that press like, the more people that will see. I come to work on Sundays. Please give me some likes. So what do I think? Jason, if you got time, you got to watch Wall Street from the 1980s, because it might seem like nothing, but that whole greed is good really, really became the mantra of the United Corporations of America. Okay? 1950s, 1960s, parts of the 1970s. There was kind of a collective, we're all in this together, I would say. Not that there were, not for black people, obviously, but for the rest of us, employers kind of cared if their workers could eat. Employers kind of cared if their workers' children could eat. That kind of went out the door with Reagan, the 1980s, and then Bill Clinton, the Democratic Leadership Council. So not only do billionaires don't care for their workers, they actually would rather their workers die than their quarterly stock profits go down. So it's not just that they don't care, they are willing to sacrifice their workers so that quarterly profits remain intact. That's what's going on. Trump is enabling it, and frankly, the Democratic Party is as well, which we're going to get to. All right, I think I got all the super chats. Donate to GoFundMe too, yes. Let me see if I missed any GoFundMe donations. Wow! Tammy, $50. Thank you, Tammy. Donald Trump, $5. Thank you, President Trump, for the $5. So we're now at 100,000. I can't even believe that. $100,070, less than $10,000 away from our goal. And by the way, I'm not going to keep getting on you, but the reason we have reopened the GoFundMe is because we're losing a lot of members because of coronavirus. Totally understand the members that have had to cancel, unfortunately. I need a new computer. We need more money for advertising because we're being suppressed by YouTube. And I would love, love, love to not have to cut pay. We don't want to cut Jen, Colin, or anybody's pay. But, you know, reality is reality. If we can't go out in the field and people are canceling, we can't print money like the Federal Reserve. So let's keep going. What's amazing to me is Donald Trump, who, to me, should be on the hook for this. People are dying because of his inaction. People are dying because he didn't listen to his experts early enough. He called it a hoax in the beginning. He said, well, you know, I think it will just pass, which is insane. You would think that with this kind of ineptitude, with this kind of incompetence, that whoever the Democratic nominee is would have a historic opportunity to just wipe the floor with Donald Trump. You would think that whoever the Democratic nominee is would galvanize the troops and point to the obvious holes we have right now in our system. The fact that $1,200 one-time check, what's that going to do? The majority of people haven't even gotten it. And $1,200 might cover 2 weeks of your rent in the biggest American cities. That's not enough. Maybe would point out that unemployment insurance is not enough, considering most of the state offices are overrun. Maybe would point out that we need emergency universal health care. Call it whatever you want. Medicare for all. Medicare during the coronavirus pandemic. By the way, we just got a new member. Thank you, new member Alexander. Woohoo!
Alexander!
Yeah. So we're now at, actually I gotta update this. We're now at 1,807. 1,807 members. So I'll update that in a little bit. Thank you, Alexander. You guys can keep signing up. That is 16 cents a day. $5 a month, statuscoup.com/join. We are going to have a members call this coming week. So this week we're going to have our monthly members call. Sign up as a member, you'll get the invite to join our members call. So basically, whoever the Democratic nominee would be has an unprecedented moment, not just to defeat Donald Trump, but to essentially realign the American economy. You already have levels not seen since the Great Depression. By the end of this, whenever the end is of the coronavirus pandemic, if there is an end in the short term, you're going to have potentially 22 to 25% unemployment. Some say higher. Holy cow, punch doggy, 99.99 in the super chat. Keep it coming. And by the way, I'm feeling super because if you came to this late, we got interviews coming up with Ben Norton from the Gray Zone. Did you know that Trump tried to overthrow Nicolas Maduro, the elected president of Venezuela, during a global deadly pandemic? Of course the U.S. would try a coup while thousands of Americans are dying of a deadly disease. We also have Paula Jean Swearingen, West Virginia Senate candidate, and an interview with Harold Frazier, the chairman of the Cheyenne River Sioux tribe. We got to keep indigenous issues front and center. The media is not going to cover it. The corporate media is not going to cover it. So we at Status Coup do. The tribes have been hit disproportionately by coronavirus. And now in South Dakota, the Republican governor, Kristi Noem, is trying to force the Cheyenne River Sioux tribe to shut down its COVID health points on the road, which is to protect the tribe. So we'll have an interview with him. Thank you so much, Punch Doggy. That's incredibly generous, $99.99 in the super chat. So you would think that Biden, Trump's handing you opportunity after opportunity. But what is Joe Biden doing while Trump is letting Trump's incompetence, ineptitude, opposition to science and basic facts? What is Joe Biden doing? Shocker. Wooing Republicans. Ugh, some things never change. The Biden campaign is secretly building a Republican group. Shock. This from the Daily Beast. Not going to read the whole thing, but Joe Biden on an Instagram Live, which I'm sure that was riveting, said, quote, matter of fact, there's some major Republicans who are already forming Republicans for Biden The vice president said, major office holders. Yeah, I'd like to see who those office holders are. Interviews with several of the most prominent never-Trump Republicans reveal that for now, the nascent effort is loosely defined and could ultimately take a variety of forms. But preliminary talks about messaging, engagement, leadership, and rollout are starting to be broadly sketched out, according to sources directly familiar with the matter. Quote, it's literally just forming. One former top Republican Party official involved with the preliminary discussions told the Daily Beast. Quote, I've had several conversations with people who have approached me. It's going to take off. It's going to happen. The question is to what degree and form it does, the source said. You don't want something like this out on the streets before it needs to be. Oh, God. It just makes it much harder to do. The contours of a developing Republicans for Biden movement are indeed fluid, with longtime operatives and former party loyalists mixed on what a final product would look like and when it might come into fruition. The movement behind the scenes is in contrast to very public efforts to unite the left. Oh, this is certainly going to unite the left, Republicans for Trump. A second source, well placed in Republican circles, who has had conversations with senior Biden advisors in recent weeks, said that any mounting effort would most likely come from within the campaign's vast network. Quote, my impression is the official one will be part of the campaign, the Republican source said, referencing the apparent Republicans for Biden group Biden mentioned. Among the GOP's more ardent anti-Trump faction, several names came up in conversation when asked who could theoretically have a role in an outside political entity which would not be allowed under campaign finance laws to coordinate with the campaign directly. Of course, that's bullshit. Hillary Clinton's campaign, as WikiLeaks revealed, coordinated quite a bit with Priorities USA and her other super PACs, and nothing happened because there are no laws for the powerful in this country. Those names include former Senator Jeff Flake, Wisconsin-based political analyst Charlie Sykes, conservative media giant Bill Kristol, former Republican National Committee Chairman Michael Steele, longtime campaign operative Steve Schmidt, former Congressman Dave Jolly, and columnist Mona Charen. Meanwhile, one name in particular has been floated as a choice to help give legs to such an effort from the inside, former Republican Ohio Governor John Kasich. The source who has spoken to top Biden allies about a number of topics said there has been discussions in Biden world about Kasich, a leading never-Trump voice who joined as a CNN analyst after leaving office in January 2019. I mean, I'm not reading the rest because it's basically what you would think. And we got 350 people watching. Can we get 100 more likes? Press that like button right under the live stream. Makes a big difference. The more likes we get, the more people that will see this live stream. So what is truly astounding about this is not just a political strategy, and it's a terrible political strategy, by the way. This is who Joe Biden is. Joe Biden is a Republican. He was essentially chosen by Obama to cater to moderate to right-wing old white Democrats who were a little resistant to vote for a black guy whose middle name was Hussein. I mean, that's the truth. Might not be politically correct to say it, but that's why they chose Joe Biden. So, Joe Biden is a Republican. In 2018, he actually went and gave a paid speech for a Republican candidate in Michigan who ended up going on to win. Media barely mentions that, but he went to give a paid speech and basically supported a Republican candidate in Michigan, the name escapes me which candidate it was, who went on to win his congressional election. He has said before he pledged to select a female vice president, he said he would consider choosing a Republican vice president. He has said he will consider appointing Republicans in his cabinet. This is all wonderful. It plays well to the media who cherishes this notion of bipartisanship. This wonderful notion, this wonderful, the good old days when Democrats and Republicans could come together, get in a room, smoke some cigars, and work together to fuck you and me. Excuse my French. Swear jar. I just demonetized. Darren Aleve, 5, is that? Oh, I always get confused. 5 pounds. What's the betting Biden picks Mitt Romney as his VP? Not good. He has said he's going to pick a woman unless Mitt, is doing some changes. I don't think it's going to be Mitt. So Joe Biden's campaign, by the way, this stuff doesn't, when this stuff leaks in the media, just so you know how this works, it's because the campaign wants it out there. So it didn't just accidentally leak to the Daily Beast. The campaign leaked it so that it would be out there as a trial balloon that they are making the same calculation as President Hillary Clinton made. Hillary Clinton made. That we have a better chance of winning not by making serious concessions to progressives, not by choosing a running mate who is progressive to be vice president, not by putting some teeth to our rhetoric, pledging I'm for Medicare for all, I've switched on A, B, and C, but by saying we think the way to beat Trump in Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Ohio, in some of these other states that are becoming potential swing states, is to woo, quote, moderate Republicans. Holy cow, we just got another big one. Thank you for the anonymous GoFundMe donation of $50. Thank you, Joe Biden left another $5. Thank you, Joe. I'm about to roast you, but thank you for supporting us anyway. Hillary Rodham Clinton just left $5. Holy cow. I didn't know that all of the power elite watch us. Thank you for the donation, Hillary, Donald Trump. Thank you guys for the donations. We're now at $100,130. Keep it coming if you can. We are less than $10,000 away from that $110,000 goal. So they honestly think that they could say, well, to hell with the progressives. Bernie endorsed Biden. Bernie is going to go around for Biden, or maybe he's not going to go around because of coronavirus, but he'll do virtual rallies, and they're naive enough to think that between Bernie and Obama, I have a source who told me Obama is going to be going hard against Trump and is going to be tossing, the norms that previous presidents don't bash their predecessors. I have a source kind of in that world that said, no, Obama's going to be bashing Trump by name. So they're they're out of touch and naive enough to think they'll get enough progressive support, and the bigger pocket of voters that could elect Joe Biden over Trump is moderate Republicans, never Trump Republicans, and I don't know, just Republicans that are disgusted by Donald Trump. Kathy Lloyd, $20 for the swear jar. Thank you, Kathy. Appreciate it. So let's first talk about the political strategy of this, and then we're going to get to just the obvious, how terrible it is. Politically, I could tell you, the media and the Democratic Party, but most importantly the media, really inflate how prevalent the Never Trump movement actually is. There really isn't a large Never Trump movement. The Never Trump movement is the Democratic Party, but there is not a huge movement out there among Republicans, Never Trump. Trump right now is polling between 85 and 90% among Republicans. Independents generally decide presidential elections. In 2016, what decided it was Hillary Clinton lost 5% among African Americans compared to Obama in 2012. Hillary Clinton lost 5% among Latinos compared to Obama in 2012. And Hillary Clinton lost 6% age 18 to 29. What political ideology do you think those 18 to 29-year-olds were? Never Trump Republicans or progressives that Hillary Clinton gave the middle finger to when she chose Tim Kaine as her vice president? When they treated Bernie Sanders supporters and delegates like cockroaches under their shoe at the Democratic National Convention. So, Hillary Clinton, remember, she was courting Republicans. She was trying to get Jeb Bush's donors over to her. Remember this brilliant statement by Chuck Schumer Where is that? For every blue-collar Democrat we lose in western Pennsylvania, we will pick up 2 moderate Republicans in the suburbs of Philadelphia. And you can repeat that in Ohio, Illinois, and Wisconsin. This is why Chuck Schumer gets paid the big bucks. Such great political strategy. Apparently, when I and others say, are the Democrats trying to lose? This is why we say it. Because normal, intelligent people, when they make, when they are wrong, when they have bad strategy, learn and pivot, do something different. Not the Democrats. But Jordan, some might say, it's different. There's a global pandemic. Trump has shit the bed. Unemployment by October, November might be at 20 to 25%. So a paper bag can defeat Donald Trump. And there will be growing resentment among Republicans and openness to Joe Biden. Folks, I got to tell you something. I'm 33, so I wasn't, around during the Great Depression. But human psychology, people are often resistant to major changes during a, very, very chaotic and tragic time. Remember, public sentiment was moving against the Iraq War around the time of the 2004 election. But George W. Bush running against somebody in John Kerry who could actually construct full sentences, which Joe Biden has not. We haven't even gotten to that part. And thank you for the super chats. Cheryl Tyler, $20. Michelle Obama's, quote, trauma, her Netflix documentary, is that her folks didn't vote for Hillary. Trauma? Black joggers being murdered in Georgia, and kids drinking poison water in Flint is trauma. Cheryl, I couldn't have said it better. And it's absolutely disgusting what we're seeing now with the Ahmaud Arbery. Of course, the father and son finally were arrested and charged with murder. Would have never happened if the video wasn't released. But the white supremacists, a lot of Republicans are saying, well, there's more to it. There was more on the video. There was more before the first video that was released. Yeah, well, the second video was released basically showing Ahmaud Arbery jogging and then stopping at a construction site for a few minutes before going on to jog again. Last time I checked, it's not illegal to stop and be on a construction site. He didn't take anything. He didn't do anything. And by the way, Sean King and Lee Merritt, the attorney of Ahmaud's family, just disproved the bullshit thing that there was burglaries in the neighborhood. There wasn't a string of burglaries in the neighborhood. The father and son duo just made it up. So we will stay on this. And by the way, when times get better, when it's safe, I would like to go to Georgia and cover that. For those of you OG status quoers, you remember, we, unlike others, went down to Dallas to cover the execution of 26-year-old black man, Botham Jean, who was assassinated in his apartment by a Dallas police officer. Thankfully, she was charged and convicted. We will want to go down there when we can, because this is a major story, and it's shameful these things are happening in America. Thank you, Cheryl, for the $20. BK Bland, $5. I'd work on focus. You telling me I'm not focused? I'm trying. By the way, got 400 people watching. 300 of you have pressed that like button. Can I get another 100 of you? Please, press that like button. It's the thumbs up button right under the live chat. Jordan missed my super chat. Why? Poopy cakes. I'm sorry. Jen's not here, so it's hard for me to keep up. Let me try to find your super chat. Poopy cakes. I would love to have a poopy cakes, but I'm a little constipated, to tell you the truth. Ooh. TMI. Sorry, I can't find it. Leave your comment, leave your super chat there, and I'll read it. Tanya H, 10 euros. Swear jar. Thank you. So, what's just amazing to me about this is, does Joe Biden and the wizards around him really think that September and October, just because unemployment is very high, just because, people are desperate by default, if Joe Biden just says, Trump's the Antichrist, Trump caused this, vote for me, that it's going to work? Is that what they think? By the way, what I think Joe Biden's campaign, and Joe Biden doesn't realize, Donald Trump, he might be a horrible, corrupt figure. He might be a racist. He might be an Islamophobist. He might be a rapist from all the allegations. But he's politically he's one of the most gifted politicians we've ever seen in this country. I mean, you got to give credit where credit is due. Partially because he's one of the most gifted bullshit artists in American history. Do you not think that if polls show Donald Trump down 10 to 15 points, Donald Trump, like that, wouldn't say, immediately, Medicare for all. Immediately, Medicare for all. Do you not think Donald Trump immediately would latch on to Rashida Tlaib's legislation of we need replenishable every month $2,000 debit cards for Americans and just say it was his idea? You don't think Donald Trump would do that? You don't think that's going to happen? Because I got news for you. That's going to happen. Donald Trump will out-left Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi, who currently, Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi's big idea to combat the economic devastation of coronavirus is expand COBRA, which would be a giant sexual favor to private insurance companies, a bailout for K Street and lobbyists, 501c6 organizations. Drip City, couldn't get it through the Senate. We're talking winning an election here. Trust me. If Donald Trump in August and September pushes Medicare for all, Mitch McConnell will agree to it in a blink of an eye. And it won't be Medicare for all forever. They'll phrase it just for now. He'll even try it through executive action. Trust me. The Republicans will let Donald Trump do whatever he needs to do because the Republicans do not want to lose the White House. Because if the Republicans lose the White House, a Democratic president could slow down their race to basically filling the entire United States judicial system with Republican judges. So Donald Trump might go further left than Bernie Sanders even to win re-election. And guess what? If he could do it in August and September and get money right away to people, people are not going to be looking at the numbers in real time. They're going to be looking at the trajectory. They're going to be looking at, do things look like they're going up? Do things look like they're getting better? I think Donald Trump could very likely push some type of national paid sick leave come the summer, early fall. And what is Joe Biden going to do? He's not going to match that because his donors won't let him. He's going to continue running on, restore the soul of the nation. Trump has destroyed norms and, our systems. Trump operated too late. There's no actual policy or substance to Biden's campaign. It's all Trump is the Antichrist. Trump is awful. That's how Hillary Clinton ran, and that's how Hillary Clinton lost. And, by the way, there's another element here that I think we need to look at. If Joe Biden is telegraphing, because again, these stories don't go out without the campaign leaking it to their preferred media outlets. Joe Biden's campaign leaked this out so that people would know that's their strategy to appeal to moderate Republicans, never Trump Republicans. They're not appealing to progressives. Who amongst us, I already thought it was going to be her, who amongst us thinks Joe Biden's vice presidential pick is not going to be Amy Klobuchar? If he's playing to Republicans, if he's playing to moderate Republicans and never Trumpers, well, they love them some Amy Klobuchar. Not Kamala Harris, not Stacey Abrams, not Gretchen Whitmer. They love Amy Klobuchar because she's another Republican in Democrat clothing. Well, I got news for you. Hillary Clinton lost. I'll repeat it for you, give you the numbers. Hillary Clinton lost because she lost 5% among African Americans compared to Obama 4 years before her. So 2016, she had 5% less black people than Obama had in 2012. She had 5% less Latinos than Obama had in 2012. And she had 6% less 18 to 29 compared to Obama in 2012. That's why she lost. It wasn't Putin. By the way, we're going to get to Russiagate today, which was just revealed to be absolute bullshit, as Aaron Maté, Jimmy Dore, Glenn Greenwald, myself have been saying for 4.5 years. if he picks Amy Klobuchar as vice president, who I think it's going to be, who do you think it's going to be?
Klobuchar.
My lovely girlfriend thinks it's going to be Klobuchar. My lovely girlfriend was correct on the New York Times endorsement. You said it was going to be Klobuchar. I said you were crazy. So I'm sticking with you now. It's going to be Klobuchar, even though the New York Times, did that co-endorsement bullshit. If Joe Biden picks Klobuchar, let me tell you something. I don't think that's going to do, I think they are going, right now, I think they are taking advantage and taking for granted the black vote. His advisors, who most of them are former Obama people, Biden's campaign manager is used to be with Beto, but was a big person on Obama's campaign, Jennifer O'Malley Dillon. They're taking advantage and they're taking for granted the African American vote. And P. Diddy, who, by the way, P. Diddy, if you watch it, I've been trying to get a hold of you. Let's talk, P. Diddy. P. Diddy came out very controversially. A lot of people didn't like it, saying, no. Black people shouldn't automatically vote for Joe Biden. This is business, baby. We're done just giving the Democratic Party our vote like that because Republicans are awful. We need more than you coming around during election time. We need promises to the African American community. I agree with P. Diddy, and I'm not black, obviously. So I think what you're seeing from Joe Biden right now is strategically, it's basically looking at Hillary Clinton's failed campaign and saying, I'd like another martini. I'd like to double that. I'd like to double down on that. I'd like to triple down on that. Mark my words, he's picking Amy Klobuchar, which is going to suppress the black vote in places like Milwaukee, Detroit, Flint, Philadelphia, and many other cities. Because if you actually, instead of watching MSNBC, if you read actual quality journalism about the 2016 election, many African Americans in places like Milwaukee, Detroit, and the places that turnout wasn't high for Hillary Clinton, they said, we don't regret not voting for Hillary Clinton, even though Trump is terrible. You think those people are going to feel obligated to come out for Joe Biden? I don't think their mind is going to change if Amy Klobuchar is the vice presidential pick and Joe Biden is courting moderate Republicans. I don't think so. I mean, listen, if unemployment goes up to like 30, 35%, all bets are off. Maybe a paper bag or, anybody could beat Trump at that point. But, and somebody makes a good point. You think Joe Biden picking Amy Klobuchar is going to be great for the Latino vote, which Joe Biden has been very weak in the Democratic primary? So basically what you're seeing right now is Joe Biden's campaign is doubling and tripling down on Hillary Clinton's failed strategy. They're saying F you to the progressives. They're saying F you to the Latinos. They're saying F you to the youth in favor of Bill Kristol, trying to get Bill Kristol and David Frum and Nicole Wallace. And by the way, just because we're living in extraordinary times and Trump is such an unusual evil people like John Kasich have been made to look like, good guys. Oh, we've missed the days of the John Kasich Republican Party. Because that Daily Beast story talked about John Kasich might be the face of a Republicans for Biden. In Ohio, when John Kasich was governor, he shut down, I think it was some crazy number, like 40 to 50% of abortion clinics. Tried to get rid of as many abortion clinics as he could. He did all the usual things, massive tax breaks for billionaires, massive tax breaks for corporations, going after, he tried to mimic what Scott Walker did in Wisconsin and just eliminate collective bargaining altogether. John Kasich. Fracking went through the roof in Ohio under John Kasich. But because Trump is such an unprecedented evil, and because people like Don Lemon on CNN and the media, they don't give a shit about actual working people. They don't care if a right-winger like Kasich gives sexual favors to bankers, to fossil fuckers. Not actual sexual favors. I don't want to start a shitstorm here. You know what I mean. If they're rhetorically nice, if they sound like they have values, If they screw working people, so what? I'm Don Lemon and I make millions of dollars. Who cares? By the way, we have almost 500 viewers right now. Woohoo! 388 of you have pressed that like button. I need another 100 of you. Please press that like button. We got great interviews coming up in just a few minutes. Ben Norton from the Gray Zone. Paula Jean Swearingen, awesome candidate in West Virginia for Senate. And an interview with Harold Frazier, the chairman of the Cheyenne River Sioux tribe. Cheyenne River Sioux, right now, under attack by the Republican governor of South Dakota, Kristi Noem, amid the coronavirus pandemic. So stay tuned for those great interviews. We don't only rant here, we bring you journalism. Holy cow, Anat. All of the American elite is donating to us. We just got $10 from Chuck Schumer in the GoFundMe. That's after $5 from Joe Biden. By the way, I'm not doing this. We are not making up fake accounts. I don't know who these people are, but Chuck Schumer, Joe Biden donated, anonymous, thank you, $50. Hillary's donating, Donald Trump has donated. Holy cow. So we're now at $100,140. Nancy, I'm waiting for you, Nancy Pelosi. What about you, Mitch McConnell? Come on. So to put a bow on this, here's my predictions. I think it is very, very possible, because the media is doing what they did in 2016. They're giving Donald Trump pretty much no shot, and they're starting to frame it as Donald Trump's days are numbered. I totally disagree. I think Donald Trump is the type of politician that even if unemployment were at 20 to 25%, even if he is fully to blame for the death count, I don't think he's fully to blame, but is 75 to 80% to blame for America's unpreparedness, for acting too late on coronavirus, all these things. To me, Donald Trump is one of the few politicians that could still hang on for two reasons. Number one, I think Donald Trump is an expert on basically just swatting off his own corruption and his own failures by pointing out his opponent's corruption and failures. And Joe Biden certainly got plenty of those. But number two, and maybe more importantly, Joe Biden is a historically weak candidate, and the media has propped him up. But Joe Biden is a historically weak candidate. And the people, even during a deadly pandemic, are not going to ignore the fact that Joe Biden could barely get through an interview without major cognitive problems, that Joe Biden has no policies. He has no policies. There's no bold vision here. Lowering Medicare age to 60 is not bold. It's the bare minimum, and it does not sell to the masses. Joe Biden, might have worked in the primary, but he might have the older African-American vote. Doesn't mean he has the millennial vote or the under 40 vote. Same thing goes for the Latinos. More importantly, we've covered it here extensively. Jen, during the week, will have a recap on Tara Reade's interview. There is, potential for more. I don't know, just speculating, but we don't know if the allegations against him are one and done. We don't know if there will be more. But most importantly, Joe Biden is not making a case for himself. And that is the problem with Hillary Clinton. He's making his entire case against Donald Trump, and that's not how you win elections. John Kerry did the same thing, basically, in 2004. When you only make your opponent the boogeyman, it might successfully make people think twice about going for the boogeyman, but it doesn't inspire them to actually make the effort to go out and vote for you, particularly during a global pandemic. This is uncharted territories. We don't know how many people will not go to a polling place, no matter what social distance precautions are put in place. We don't know, state by state, if there will be enough mail-in ballot opportunities. So Donald Trump could win with 20% unemployment. I'm telling you right now, he could win with 20% unemployment. And frankly, Biden's going to try not to. If there are 3 in-person debates between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, I don't like Donald Trump, but I'm just being honest here. It's not going to be pretty for Joe Biden. He did not fare well in one-on-one debates. He did not fare well in most debates. And Donald Trump is going to do what Bernie Sanders wouldn't do, and that's just clean Joe Biden's clock. On trade, wait till the NAFTA Joe starts, wait till TPP Joe starts. On issues with black voters, the crime bill, palling around with segregationists in the 1970s. So just because the economy is headed off a cliff does not mean Joe Biden is a sure thing. And by the way, Joe Biden and his campaign apparently are trying to re-elect Trump because the strategy of going for the moderate Republicans and never Trump Republicans is a bridge to nowhere. And before I move on to airing the first interview we want to air, I just want to point out what I think is one of the most revealing statements a Democrat has made in a very long time. Because it really reveals what the actual problem is in America. We don't have a real opposition party in this country. I've read my history. I'm a fan of Bobby Kennedy. I'm a fan of JFK to a certain extent. But boy, this guy, Congressman Joe Kennedy, now running for Senate against Ed Markey, who's fairly progressive. He's for Medicare for All, Ed Markey, Green New Deal. Joe Kennedy tweets out, "Not a single American family should be forced to fight for their home against big banks without a lawyer by their side." Oh, thank you, Joe Kennedy. Thank you for making sure we have a lawyer to challenge the bankers who are trying to fuck us, that you are bought off by. Thank you for, making sure we have a lawyer to fight the big banks that you've been bought off by. But it gets better. Not a single worker should be forced to fight for their earned wages against corporations without a lawyer by their side. Well, thank you. I'm so happy that you, the Democrats, prioritize making sure we have a lawyer rather than stopping corporations from trying to fuck us. Not a single survivor of domestic or sexual violence should be forced to seek protection from an abuser without a lawyer by their side. Yeah, that's kind of obvious. Not a single patient should be forced to fight off medical bankruptcy in the midst of a global health pandemic without a lawyer by their side. Maybe the point is we shouldn't have medical bankruptcy in America? That healthcare should be free at the point of service? Jack Jean, $100 in the super chat. Holy cow! Jack Jean, thank you for the $100. Really appreciate it. That is highly, extremely generous of you. Thank you. Ambush of Blacks, $2 in the super chat. Hey Jay, you missed my question. Did Michael Moore discuss Flint? Nope. He did not discuss our story. He did not tweet out our story. He briefly mentioned it for like 5 seconds on his podcast. So yeah, not happy with Michael Moore. And I think his recent documentary, is a bunch of right-wing propaganda. So I'm not so sure what's going on with Michael Moore. You would think it wouldn't be that hard to get Michael Moore to speak up when we, Jen and I, and Status Coup broke possibly the biggest environmental cover-up of the 21st century. When we broke that story a few weeks ago on the fact that Governor Rick Snyder of Michigan had been warned a year before the Flint water switch that there were major risks if Flint used the Flint River and allowed it to go forward anyway. When we proved that Snyder lied to Congress, that he became aware of the deadly Legionella outbreak 16 months earlier than he told Congress, and his administration made sure the news didn't get out to warn residents to stop drinking the water. We proved that his administration engaged in paying off sick Flint residents. All of these things are, it's like you could have 7 or 8 different stories because we dropped so many bombs in one story. But no, Michael Moore couldn't be bothered to talk about it because he was too busy promoting his right-wing documentary about putting forth talking points that the right wing pushed 10 years ago. Sorry to get worked up. Not so happy with Michael Moore at the moment. So basically, you have Trump allowing tens of thousands of Americans to die because he acted too late, And the Democratic Party's response is, let's expand COBRA, bailout for lobbyists, and making sure you have a lawyer when the banks come to fuck you up the ass. Excuse my French. I'm a little saucy today. Ambush of Blacks, $2. Coward, thanks for your reporting. Thank you for your super chat and your support. So without further ado, we almost have 500 viewers, so keep it coming. Press the share button too. Get this out to as many people as possible. I want to air our first interview with West Virginia Senate candidate Paula Jean Swearingen. If you remember, she challenged Joe Manchin in the West Virginia Senate in 2017. Was it 2018. She almost won 50,000 votes in West Virginia as a complete no-name. She surprised a lot of people. She lost, but she surprised a lot of people, and now she's running again against the other West Virginia senator. A lot of people are feeling hopeless right now as Bernie endorsed Biden. A lot of people are mad at Bernie. A lot of people feel that the progressives in Congress are not doing enough to challenge the Democrats' weak response to this, and the Democratic Party's basically going along with the Republicans. I agree on a lot of those things, and I've been critical of Bernie, but we can't lose sight. It's important on downstream. We do have strong progressives running that have a chance to win this November. Without further ado, here's my interview with Paula Jean Swearingen. Make sure you keep the love coming in the super chat, the GoFundMe. We need your support. Here's my interview with Paula Jean Swearingen, West Virginia Senate candidate. Hey, it's Jordan. Delighted to be joined by a progressive champion down in West Virginia, Paula Jean Swearingen. You remember her running for the Senate a couple years ago, and she's back at it, running again, which I think would be hard during a global pandemic, so we'll get to that. First, let me ask you, Paula Jean, West Virginia already has pre-existing health problems because of the coal industry causing so much sickness down there. Obviously, high rates of cancer and other things. There's obviously an opioid epidemic in West Virginia. How is your neighbors and the people you're trying to serve? How has COVID been affecting West Virginians?
Well, our governor is talking about opening up our state, which is really, really frightening. We have a petition out to him and Shelley Moore Capito and Joe Manchin, which are both of our United States senators. One, to not open the state too soon, because we do lead in the country to being the most vulnerable because of the health conditions in this state, like you mentioned. And also, too, it's kind of like they're bidding against each other for human rights like they usually do. And all it's about the economy, well, we're not collateral damage. And just because of our population is the reason why they're talking about opening up our state as one of the first states. And, it's really pretty unacceptable. So on a federal level, our representatives can push legislation like a $2,000 stimulus until we get through this and we know more about this virus. There's a lot of people in the rural areas that live in really impoverished conditions, and they don't have access to comprehensive broadband, and some of them don't even have access to the outside world. So we're asking our governor to not only halt on trying to open our state too soon, but also send out the National Guard to check on folks in communities like that. And then there's people like in Hayden City, West Virginia right now, Minden, West Virginia, that has been dealing with chemicals in their soil, chemicals in their water. Not only were they dealing with the crisis, water crisis, and the crisis of what was in their soil, and a lot of people across the state are, still begging for a clean glass of water. So they was already dealing with that. And now people in the front lines of their communities are not, they're still having to hand out water, raise money for water. Even though our governor's declared a state of emergency, we've really not seen anything from the National Guard, especially in these rural areas where the people were struggling already.
And the thing that I find kind of just like puzzling, they're in a rush to, open the economy, but like, how do you open an economy when you don't have customers? I mean, we just had 20 million people just lost their jobs.
That's right.
People who haven't lost their jobs are tightening their belt because they might be afraid they're going to lose their jobs. So it's like you're going to open up restaurants and these kind of things, but you might not even have enough customers to make overhead. So it's not only
Well, this really solidifies that we don't take the care of the most vulnerable in the country, because not only do we have a lot of people that are dealing with health diseases, but we have a large, a big part of our population is the elderly. And, the folks at Walmart, our healthcare workers, and everybody else that's working in the front lines of the communities. We have not seen any personal protective equipment till recently. And that includes my children, too. All 4 of my children are working in the front lines of this. So it's frightening for me as a mother. And I know that's the case for a lot of people across the country. And I think it's a disgrace that we're supposed to be one of the richest countries in the world, but we can't provide something that's as simplistic as a face mask and personal protective equipment to the folks that need it the most right now. And a lot of families in this state, you have multiple families living in the same household because they are so poor. So people that are forced out into the front lines of the communities can possibly take something back home to, maybe a grandfather or grandmother that's high risk. So, it's like I said, we rank, top in the country right now. And it's frightening to me that any state is talking about opening up right now, but especially our state, because we are going to be impacted heavily if they do.
And I want to go forward to your campaign. For those that don't remember, you did fairly well for someone that nobody had known about a year prior to your election against Joe Manchin. I don't remember the number off the top of my head, but you got tens of thousands, if I remember correctly.
We got almost 45,000 votes, but it was really amazing because we got more votes against a sitting incumbent in 75 years. And so we really proved that he could be challenged. And we got more votes than any Republican on the ballot. So as an unknown candidate at the time, we did pretty amazing because nobody knew who I was. And also, I'm going to go back on my team a little bit. And everybody worked really hard, but there was a lot of inexperience in that campaign. And we've gained a lot of experience since the last time I ran for office. And I am running for United States Senate again. If you were at my watch party, if you'd asked me that night if I was going to ever do it again, I don't know if I ever would have, but I did, they fired me. I just can't put it out. And also found out I was expecting my first grandchild, which was born on January 26th. Wow. And with everything that I was starting to see at that time was, that might happen with the presidential election. Right now, I want people not to give up hope because we still have a way to fight back, and we need a good, strong Congress. And that's why I decided to run for office again, especially the Senate, because they make decisions like with the Supreme Court. And so we need accountability, and we need good people servants in Congress. And that's one of the reasons, too, that I decided to run again, is because right now, especially, we're having to argue on who might be more rapey. So, we have to have a good, strong Congress, and that just, we have a way to fight now. And we have a slate of candidates with brand new Congress, for example, that are ordinary people like myself, that are not taking corporate and corporate PAC dollars, that have struggled in the front lines of our communities. We know what it's like to live day to day, go from paycheck to paycheck. And we're all just trying to work together to make sure that we do have a good, strong Congress. And even here in West Virginia, shout out to the West Virginia Can't Wait movement. We also have a slate of candidates, over 90 candidates that are ordinary people too. And they are running for local offices that have also pledged not to take corporate and corporate PAC dollars. So after the teachers' strike and everything that's happened, West Virginians are really standing up to try to change the dynamic of our government. And
you ran against Joe Manchin, who, people watching know who Joe Manchin is, might as well be a Republican. Now you're running against Shelley Moore Capito. I know less about her, but my strong assumption is she's not exactly progressive, and she's not exactly, demanding the necessary relief that working people in West Virginia need. The Democrats nationally have gone along with this Republican, totally inadequate response, the first bill. So tell us about your opponent. What is she doing? Is she doing anything well? And what should people know about the current senator there?
She's a corporate servant. Her top 3 donors is the pharmaceutical industry, the coal industry, and the gas industry. So, it's nothing new. She's a rubber stamp for Trump. Her dad used to be a governor, so she's in office because of her, her family's dynasty. And she doesn't stand up for women. And it's really personal with me, really, with Shelley Moore Capito. I think even more than it was with Joe Manchin last time, because Shelley Moore Capito is a mother and a grandmother, and she's turned a blind eye to the children dying and starving in this state. And I think she owes the people of West Virginia an explanation for that. And I want her to look me in the eye and tell me why that she's ignored the children of our state like she has.
Mm-hmm. And what's interesting to me, I know it's a Democratic senator's race, but I see a growing opportunity right now for kind of a coming together of progressives and even some right wingers. I mean, remember, Bernie did incredibly well in West Virginia in 2016, and I see a lot of even conservatives starting to realize, like, wow, we're getting screwed here, even by the Republicans. Are you seeing some of that? I know you can't canvass like you used to because of the coronavirus pandemic, but in your outreach, are you even seeing that it's not just progressives that might vote for you, but others too?
Well, I seen it in 2018, and I see it now. Just last week, I helped a Republican coal miner change his party affiliation to Democrats. This is not about partisan politics for West Virginians anymore. And I hear it all the time. I make calls and have spoken to a lot of voters since we've been under quarantine. And we want economic diversity. We have to combat the addiction epidemic. And that's not just with drug replacement therapy. That's supporting long-term recovery systems, making sure that they're funded on the state level and a federal level, and making sure that our incumbents are not just putting all that money back into big pharma, but actually, working on the solutions for that. And as far as economic diversity, we don't have economic diversity. The coal industry has been declining since the 70s. The cruelest lie that a politician can tell is the coal industry is going to rebound, because it's not. We needed a plan B a couple decades ago. And people are actually dying and starving here. They don't know where their next meal is going to come from. Now, living in the middle of a pandemic, like I said, in these rural areas where they're already struggling, the possibilities are endless for West Virginia. We could grow hemp on mountaintop removal sites. We could tap into hydropower, geothermal. We could put renewables on mountaintop removal sites. It's been proven that renewables are viable here. If in some areas, some people still don't even have adequate sewage systems. But if we make sure that we create an infrastructure to where we do have comprehensive broadband, we have good roads, we have good schools, we clean up our water in our state, then we're going to invite other business here. But what's happened to West Virginia for far too long is that we have people that are not people servants. They're servants to corporations and lobbyists and special interests. And that's why I keep on going, is because we have to have a plan B for West Virginia. We deal with depopulation. I worry about the future for our children, and we are standing up together. And like I said, it's not about partisan politics. If we have true conversations about what our needs are, and have visionaries for our future instead of visionaries for our demise, we all come together. And despite partisan politics, believe it or not, West Virginians are some of the most hospitable people in the world. You may have a neighbor that's a Republican and another neighbor that's a Democrat, but where we're in trouble, even when it even solidifies it with this pandemic, people are coming out and helping each other. They're making sure that people have food. They have the supplies that they need. People are knocking on doors and trying to help the elderly. That's just who we are, and that's what we've always done. We've had divided, propaganda to divide us, but people are opening their eyes. That's why you see a great big movement within the borders of this state, and people standing up and running for office because they're really sick of not having true people servants.
And I want to ask you, because it seems to me nationally, progressives that are in Congress, there's a huge opportunity right now for organizing, mm-hmm. whether it be a rent strike, whether it be, who knows, a general strike. People are losing their jobs like wildfire right now, meaning they don't have health care. And when people have nothing to lose, they, usually will take more aggressive action. Do you think, mm-hmm. how the coronavirus and the kind of economic misery right now. Not that you want that, but do you think that could kind of benefit your campaign? Because I think by November, frankly, these incumbents are going to have a lot of egg on their face, considering the lack of a real response.
People are holding them accountable, and safety first. So we don't want people out in the streets protesting and stuff. But I think once people feel safe and they can get out of their houses again, I think that you're going to see a true difference in the political dynamic and people standing up. Like I said, I talk to people all the time, and they're just really, really sick already of being underserved in this state. And the way that our leadership has handled this pandemic, I think it has been real eye-opening to not only West Virginians, but to people across the country.
And how are you campaigning right now? I mean, obviously you're not like knocking on doors and stuff. So what are you looking for volunteers? Are you doing things? What are you doing digitally?
Well, it's incredible, actually. And I wanted to shout out to everybody across the country. We still don't take corporate and corporate PAC dollars. We never have, and we never will. We have outraised everyone in the primary 8-1, and that's because even with West Virginia struggling, we've had a lot of West Virginians step up to volunteer and make phone calls to get out the vote, and people across the country, but people have donated and invested in West Virginia. We are the only campaign that is fully staffed. It's kind of ironic. My primary opponent is his prior campaign manager is working for me, an incredible campaign manager. He's done great things for our campaign. We have an expansive digital team. We have a finance director. We have an incredible comms director. And we just hired a couple people on field, and we've had over 800 to 1,000 people to sign up to get out the vote. So we have people making phone calls and sending texts. And despite everything that's going on, I'm really humbled by the people that I have behind me, because not only are they the most hardworking people that I've ever seen, but they're the most talented people I think I've ever worked with.
And if you were elected into that Senate, right now there's kind of there's this debate among progressives. Some progressives who came in, they were activists and kind of loud, and I'm not going to work with the Democrats. They seem to be working with the Democrats and being a little bit more cooperative, while others say, no, we're not here to like hold hands with Nancy Pelosi. We are going to essentially we want to do what the Tea Party did, which is kind of like a hostile takeover without the racism. What if you were elected? How would you legislate? Would you try and compromise with the Chuck Schumers of the world or this and that, and basically get crumbs from them, or would it be a more aggressive approach?
I want to be aggressive and stand up for the people in my state. It wasn't my dream to be a politician. And I don't, to be honest with you, I'm a country girl. I don't like the thought of going to D.C., but it's necessary for the survival of the people in this state. And I would cut my leg off for my children. And they got a bad day if they think that I'm going to Washington to cater to anybody but the people that I'm supposed to serve. And that's about the priority is my state and the people across this country. And I believe no matter whatever party affiliation you are, Democrat, Republican, Independent, if you're public servant, that you should collectively be working together to make decisions for the people that you're supposed to serve. But the Nancy Pelosi's and the Chuck Schumers, they are not public servants. They are servants to corporations and lobbyists. And me specifically, and the whole slate that I'm standing with brand new Congress, I fully believe that they're not going to back down either, because like I said, we know what it's like to struggle every day. And this is something that is really important to me too, and West Virginians know. When people go to D.C. or they become representatives to us, the people that are serving in the front lines of our communities who are already solving our problems every day don't have a seat at the table. It's important to me when I go to Washington that I'm going to host round tables and town halls and sit down with the people that I know that have been working in the front lines of our communities forever, and make sure that they have a seat at the table and they get to help write legislation that will benefit West Virginians and people across this country.
Thank you very much, Paula Jean. Where could people find out more if they want to volunteer, donate?
Okay, so you can go to our website, paulajean.com, and that's Jean with a J. And Paula Jean 2020 on Facebook and Twitter. And you can donate at paulajean.com. And if you're interested in volunteering, email Andrew at paulajean.com.
Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statuscoup.com where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statuscoup.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you.
Status Coup.
That was Paula Jean Swearingen, West Virginia Senate candidate. Real, I think, representation of actual working people. Working people. Trying to talk like I'm from West Virginia. Bad attempt. Actual working people. Still fighting on the local and state level. Listen, she got almost 50,000 votes against Joe Manchin in 2018. I think she has a chance to actually win this time. You know, if you are looking for something to do while during a pandemic, definitely check her out. Let me put her website back in there. I know that all of these campaigns are looking for volunteers and all those things. It's not only Bernie and President that we were trying to get. We definitely need to keep working to try and get more actual progressives elected to the House, the Senate, and other avenues. And I think she means it when she says she's going to be aggressive. I really do. So let's keep going. Before I play my next interview with Chairman Harold Frazier of the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe, I'd like to get to a subject that, shockingly, the media is not covering. Let's take you through a little flashback here of an interview that I did in 2016. You might recall this interview I did. Here we go.
Donna, do you owe the voters an apology for passing a question for a town hall off to the Hillary Clinton campaign?
Sir, you know what? I wish when you got your facts, you read the emails. And
I did read a lot of them.
Well, you clearly did not read my email, sir. The Democratic National Committee, as Secretary Clinton alluded to tonight, was a victim of a cybercrime.
You keep saying that, but the email was that you passed it along.
Private emails were stolen from individuals that had no right being trafficked in the public sphere.
We've heard this, but what about you passing a question to Hillary Clinton's campaign, the town hall before?
Trump badger women, you're welcome.
Yes, a journalist asking a question is badgering you.
Yes.
You've said it on Russia.
Sir?
You passed the question. Jake Tapper has also said you passed the question. Do you have anything to say about that?
Questions as a contributor to CNN.
Well, first of all, let me answer the question, because as much as I respected journalists all my political life, and I will respond to questions, as I've stated repeatedly, that the Democratic Party was a victim of a cybercrime, and I don't peddle in what I call the illegal dumping of private emails in the public sphere that have been altered, that have been in many cases readapted. And so, as I've stated repeatedly, and I'll state it again for the record, I have never been privileged, as long as I've been not just a part of CNN, which, let me just say how proud I am to have been a contributor for CNN and other news outlets. And no one has ever shared questions with any of us involved in CNN as.
Do you have proof that it was Russia? Do you have proof that it was Russia?
Sir, as we've stated, and the United States government has also stated, and if you would like a copy of the Department of Homeland Security and the information that they released 2 weeks ago, you're welcome to have it, but I'm sure you have it. But
Yeah, they also told us we had WMDs. Why should we trust this?
Because we have ample evidence. We've been the victim of a cybercrime. We have ample evidence. We have ample evidence through our servers and through all of the technology that we have seen corrupted by the fingerprints.
Donna, I'm sorry to have to do that on Mother's Day. I wish you a happy Mother's Day. I don't even know if she has children, but God bless you. Huh? She's a lesbian? Oh, I didn't know that. That doesn't mean she might have kids. So I play that not to stroke my own ego, although I do enjoy watching it. I have not been invited to the DNC Christmas party since And I think that might have have a little something to do with the fact that Status Coup was denied credentials for the majority of the presidential debates. We finally got credentials to the debate that was supposed to be in Arizona, but obviously coronavirus canceled that debate in Arizona. It was moved to D.C. With no audience. But I never believed, and I made it clear when I was at the Young Turks, that I never really believed there was actual evidence that Russia hacked the DNC. It was certainly possible. I'm no fan of Vladimir Putin. Russia definitely tried to, quote, interfere in the election through the same mechanisms that we use when we try to interfere in other elections. Go look at Matt Taibbi's reporting from when he was a journalist in Russia. America basically threw the 1996 election for Boris Yeltsin. And then, as the Soviet Union, in the years after the Soviet Union went down, America, through our policies, including Lawrence Summers, who Joe Biden is now getting advice from, privatized all of Russia and gave it to conservative oligarchs. So there was never any actual evidence that Russia literally hacked the Democratic National Committee's servers and stole emails. There was a possibility of it, but I always said, listen, I have read all of the technical, keyword technical stories on outlets like Wired and elsewhere that explained what the evidence was, and the only thing they reported is basically what the United States government had put out there as explanation of how it was Russia's fingerprints common Russian hacking IDs were found in the DNC server. But there was never any actual forensic evidence that Russia hacked the DNC. Now, again, doesn't mean they didn't. All I'm saying as a journalist, I know this is a radical concept for the folks at the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Associated Press, Daily Beast, BuzzFeed, CNN, MSNBC, I could go on and on and on. But you're not supposed to just regurgitate what government officials and intelligence officials, i.e., all the anonymous sources that the New York Times, Washington Post use. You're not supposed to just regurgitate what they claim to be fact without actual independent verification. This is how majority of wars have started that the United States have launched. This is how endless propaganda campaigns have started from the United States. Swap for Jim, $2. Please, your opinion on Ventura as president. I gave it the other day. I'm in the zone. I'll get to Ventura later. But thank you for the super chat. Swap for Jim. And by the way, as we aired that interview, I mean, thank you so much. Not only has Donald Trump donated today to our GoFundMe, not only has Joe Biden donated today to our GoFundMe, not only has Hillary Rodham Clinton donated today, while we aired that interview with Paula Jean, Chuck Schumer, $10. Thank you, Chuck. Mitch McConnell, $5. Thanks, Mitch. And now, puppet leader of Venezuela, the fake leader of Venezuela, Juan Guaido, $5. Thank you, Juan. We're now at $100,160. Keep it coming in the GoFundMe if you can. We really appreciate it. So, all of this was never proven, and it was essentially, to me, and my girlfriend and I fought about this, because God bless her, she does work in intelligence, and she buys this, hook, line, and sinker. God bless her. She's a lot smarter than me, but on this we disagree. But she's beautiful. I love her. And she's wonderful to me. You want to come in for this segment?
No, I don't. I'm going to do Pilates.
Oh, you're doing Pilates? Okay. So, all of this was a mass, yes, I could still smell whoever asked that. All of this was a mass propaganda campaign and distraction campaign to the real reason that the Democratic Party lost to an orange orangutan reality television star in 2016. The fact that the Democratic Party doesn't stand for anything, the fact that the Democratic Party is corrupt, the fact that the Democratic Party, not that Trump was much better, but that the Democratic Party has no actual policies for working people, and that the Democratic Party has put forward a candidate who was corrupt. That's why they lost. So we had to do a mass distraction campaign so that the media wouldn't be forced to cover income inequality, the toxicity of money in politics, which was talked about and people have become more awoke to during the 2016 campaign and obviously now. The media didn't want to cover that. So they took unverified, not proven propaganda that Russia hacked the election and stole the election and ran with it for 4.5 years. Well, I mean, Aaron Mate has gotten a lot of grief, independent journalist with the gray zone. Well, it just totally, the house of cards has completely crumbled. This was just revealed. CrowdStrike CEO, CrowdStrike is the third-party, quote-unquote, security firm that the DNC cited as proof that Russia hacked the DNC. In a congressional testimony with Adam Schiff, the CEO of CrowdStrike, we did not have concrete evidence that data was exfiltrated from the DNC, but we have indicators that it was exfiltrators. Let me read that one more time. We did not have concrete evidence that data was exfiltrated from the DNC, but we have indicators that it was exfiltrated. He went on. There are times when we could see data exfiltrated and we can say conclusively, but in this case, it appears it was set up to be exfiltrated, but we just don't have the evidence that says it actually left. I'm honestly, it's very rare. I am actually speechless. I am actually speechless. Mr. Stewart of Utah, you said something, and I want to restate it, and tell me if I'm wrong, if I could. You said, I believe, talking about the DNC computer, you had indications that data was prepared to be exfiltrated, but no evidence it actually left. Did I write that down correctly? The CEO of CrowdStrike. Yes. Oh, by the way, CrowdStrike was paid $78,000 by the DNC in 2019. So the very firm, the very third-party firm, and welcome new Status Coup member, Steven! Woohoo! We are now at 1,000, we're actually down a little bit more than that. We're at 1,808 members now. 1,808 members now. Let me put in the right number. Keep on signing up if you can. 16 cents a day, $5 a month. And this week, we have our members only call. So if you sign up as a member before, I think we're going to do it Wednesday or Thursday, you'll get the link to join us on our Zoom video call. You don't have to be on video. You could mute your video so you don't have to be on camera. So let me get something straight here, okay? We collectively, we were called conspiracy theorists for the last 4 years. Aaron Mate was called a conspiracy theorist and a wacko for 4 years. Glenn Greenwald, Jimmy Dore, Michael Tracy, who I think is a bit off the rails on other things, but he was right on this. I was called a conspiracy theorist by my own former boss. Remember, I was on a panel with Jank. He was buying this hook, line, and sinker that Russia hacked the DNC. The whole talking point, 17 agencies have confirmed this, that Russia hacked the DNC. Give me a moment, because my computer was operating slowly, so I got rid of it. But I want to find this video. Hold on. All of this was the origin of Rachel Maddow's 4-year nervous breakdown on television that The Intercept so brilliantly. Let me bring you down memory lane here.
And here's the question. Is the new president going to take those troops out? In Russia. Russia. Of whether or not Russia had help. Whether they had Confederates inside the Trump campaign. And here's the question. Is the new president going to take those troops out? In Russia. Russia. Of whether or not Russia had help. Whether they had Confederates inside the Trump campaign when they launched this attack. But every day I lead my show, and I think I'm going to be talking about something else. But every day, over the course of the news cycle, a new piece of it falls in place. We're about to find out if the new president of our country is going to do what Russia wants. If the presidency is effectively a Russian op, right? If the American presidency right now is the product of collusion between the Russian intelligence services and an American campaign, I mean, that is so profoundly big. This is not part of American politics. This is not, partisan warfare between Republicans and Democrats. This is international warfare against our country.
Aaron Maté just found this gem during an interview with the New Yorker. Chris Hayes, who is on an hour before Rachel Maddow, acknowledge. Hold on. I think it's actually fairly endemic and part of a human information processing at all times. I don't know. I think that's often the way that we make sense of the world. If you go back and you look at COINTELPRO stuff and essentially the kind of combination of dirty tricks and surveillance that the FBI was using on Black Panthers and others, one of the effects was that it drove them nuts. They all started going a little crazy and getting super paranoid. But that was part of the point of it. So I also don't want to take the agency away from the actual actor here, which is the Russian government, doing those things in 2016 that really had profound, tangible effects and have produced some amounts of craziness and paranoia. I don't want to lose sight of their agency in producing the state of affairs. I think that in some ways was a seed that flowered into whatever we're dealing with now. So he's acknowledging here and have produced some amounts of craziness and paranoia. I mean, it's just truly astounding. Truly astounding. They ran with this. MSNBC got record ratings and profits as a result, with something that never had any evidence for it, and which was a bonkers theory in the first place. Of course, is it possible that it was always possible that Russia hacked? Russia has the capabilities. But there was no forensic evidence ever provided. The only evidence that was provided was just media outlets regurgitating what the CIA, what the FBI, what the Department of Homeland Security put out. Like they've never lied to us, which is the point I made to Donna Brazil. Why should we believe? Oh, we have ample evidence. We have ample evidence. What evidence? Seriously, what evidence did they have that Russia hacked the DNC servers? And by the way, here's a question that they never asked, conveniently never asked. If Russia hacked the DNC, why is it that the DNC refused to let the FBI inspect the computers and servers? If you've actually been hacked, the FBI was not permitted to check the DNC servers. DNC is a private corporation. It gets better, though. The CEO of CrowdStrike I don't know that I can tell you the specifics about it, other than I've spoken to my team about it, who are true experts in this area, and they say that the argument is just not plausible. The argument meaning that it wasn't a hack, that it was a leak. So his experts say the argument that it was a leak is just not plausible. The same experts that are now saying 4 years later, we don't have concrete evidence that Russia hacked the DNC. So why does this matter? To me, it's not even about Russia. I don't give a flying shit about Russia. I don't think Putin is a good leader. I think he's homophobic. They have killed journalists. So Putin's no friend of mine. Shouldn't be a friend of progressives either. Carl Knight, $10. There are pictures of Biden and Putin shaking hands. It'd be hilarious if Trump campaign uses that against him. Haha. Krillin, 876, $5. I am curious how Russiagators are reacting to Green Berets being busted in Venezuela. We have an interview with Ben Norton about that coming up. I thought those pearl clutchers value democracy so much. Billy Boy, $5. Glad you're feeling better, Jordan. Keep up the great work. We need you, man. Thank you so much. Thank you for the kind words. Steady Drummer, $4.99. Thank you for covering Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe news. Absolutely, that's coming up next. So, this is not about Russia. This is about how the capitalist state stays in order. This is about how the oligarchy stays intact. This is about how older people, not all older people, because there's a lot of older progressives, including in our viewership, remain uninformed, misinformed, and numb. Numb enough and uninformed enough to keep voting against their own interest, as in voting for Joe Biden, as in learning the wrong lessons for the 2016 election. Because the lessons a lot of older people have learned that voted for Hillary is Hillary didn't lose on her ideas. The Democratic Party didn't lose on their ideas or lack of ideas. The Democratic Party didn't lose because people are fed up with its corruption and lack of vision and lack of actual policies for working people. They learned that the Democratic Party lost because Vladimir Putin was the boogeyman, because Russia stole the emails and that swayed the election. That's what they were fed every single day by Rachel Maddow, by Lawrence O'Donnell, by Chris Hayes, by CNN too, the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Associated Press, and all of them. Just regurgitating bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. Doesn't mean Russia didn't try to sway the election. Of course they had fake Facebook pages and bots and trolls, whatever. You know what? So did Hillary Clinton's campaign. So did the Republicans. I give you Correct the Record, a troll army run by Hillary Clinton's one of her henchmen, David Brock. Correct the Record. They've gone after me. They've gone after other progressives. Republicans do the same thing. It's not some unprecedented thing that Russia has bots. This is how manufacturing consent works. This is how mass distraction works. This is how people are programmed to look over here and look over to that boogeyman rather than looking at what's right under your nose, which is your government has been bought off to serve donors and corporations rather than you. And frankly, if MSNBC had any journalistic integrity, which they do not, Rachel Maddow should be fired. Several of their anchors that push this should be fired. Same goes with CNN, Washington Post, New York Times, because it's one thing if you make an honest mistake. I've made honest mistakes and I correct them. It's another thing when you knowingly these are all smart people. Rachel Maddow's very smart. When you knowingly push propaganda, when you know that the evidence is faulty. By the way, they push this propaganda against a nuclear-armed power. So kudos to Aaron Maté, who is on the forefront of this from the beginning. He's with the Gray Zone now. I think he won an award, an Izzy Award, if memory serves me correct, for his Russiagate reporting. He stood against all the propagandists on social media and in the media, saying that he was a Trump ally and a Russian asset and all these things. I've been called a Russian asset? No, we're journalists. We require evidence for accusing nuclear powers of cyber espionage and treason. Kelly, Carl. Jordan underestimates the mystical powers of Bernie memes. You might be right. You might be right. Thank you. Oh my God. Donna Brazil just donated to our GoFundMe. Now we're clicking. Empress Nancy Pelosi just donated. Juan Guaido. Thanks. The oligarchy is really pitching in today. We're now at $1,175 raised. Thank you. Keep it coming. I know it's hard. So for those who can't donate, no problem. Just keep pressing the like button. Share this to your social media streams. All that good stuff. Of course, and the shame of it all of these outlets that pushed this bullshit for 4 years, crickets now on CrowdStrike, basically saying, oops, yeah, no, we never had actual evidence. It was just kind of our hypothesis, a working hypothesis. And by the way, as I just showed you, they were paid $78,000 from the DNC last year. And I would assume, since we're probably headed to some type of, smaller in-person / virtual convention, that CrowdStrike's going to get a lot of money for consulting for the DNC convention. Disgusting. Pivoting to a completely different subject, I interviewed Navajo Nation, a Navajo Nation delegate 2 weeks ago. Navajo Nation has been ravaged by coronavirus, and there has not been, shockingly, any federal help. And there are a lot of challenges Navajo Nation is facing. Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe, which, by the way, was one of the tribes fighting alongside Standing Rock Sioux Tribe against Dakota Access Pipeline when I was there a few years ago. Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe, on its land, on its reservation, has checkpoints. So they have officers of the tribe in the street. When a car comes, they have to stop. The car gets asked a series of questions. Have you been in contact with people that have had coronavirus? Have you had coronavirus? Pretty safe, normal thing to do during a deadly pandemic, because the tribe does not want people passing through its reservation that have had contacts with people with coronavirus or have had it themselves, because the tribe has 6 ventilators for 12,000 people living there. So, shockingly, Republican Governor Kristi Noem of South Dakota is now trying to force Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe to shut down its checkpoints, close down its checkpoints on their own land. I think this is a scandal. It reeks of white privilege and the normal disdain and disrespect and racism against our indigenous people. So, fortunately, Chairman Harold Frazier took some time yesterday to speak with me. Here's my interview. Hey, it's Jordan. Delighted to be joined by Harold Frazier, chairman of the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe. You are in South Dakota, and there's a bit of a back and forth right now, which is not uncommon for you with the governor there and the government. Governor Kristi Noem is basically demanding that you, close down health checkpoints on your reservation for COVID-19. Can you kind of talk about what exactly why is she asking you to, basically put down the checkpoints that you're using, and what are the checkpoints for?
Well, according to her letter that she sent, it's because we're hindering traffic, is what she is saying, and that's why she wants us to remove these checkpoints. But, they're there to help us protect our residents of this reservation. We've got these checkpoints put up with the main purpose of tracking the virus. Because we know that virus does not travel to people infected with the virus that travels. And the only way it's ever going to come in here is through travel. So, and when that does happen, we want to be able to track where it come from, when it got here, etc. So we could immediately try to isolate it and keep it contained, so it does not spread throughout our lands here on our reservation.
And what I find interesting is if she says it's blocking traffic, is there no such thing as a detour? Can't they provide detours if if legitimately that was obstructing traffic, which I doubt it is?
Yeah, I personally been at pretty much all the checkpoints numerous times, and a lot of times I go there, I just observe what's going on, etc. And on an average, each vehicle is probably there maybe a minute, more or less, and they continue on their way. So I just find it. I know she personally has never visited any of our checkpoints, so I just kind of find the stories that I hear that's being spread about checkpoints, they're pretty much false, and I just can't understand why anybody's trying to stop us from saving lives. I mean, it's just kind of unreal.
And it seems to me that you need to take this action because, like I'm seeing with Navajo Nation and other tribes, it's not like the state government is providing so much relief to Native Americans. I'm hearing horror stories of, not a ton of ventilators, running out of not enough PPE. So, what has Governor Noem provided for Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe?
Right now, the state of South Dakota has not provided us pretty much with nothing. And prior to this pandemic, we're here with our service unit, our hospital, with an 8-bed facility. We have 6 ventilators. Prior to this pandemic, we had no respiratory therapist, but since then we have was successful in hiring a respiratory therapist. And the thing about what I've been told is that on an average, usually a respiratory therapist monitors 2 to 3 ventilators, 4 at the most. So considering we only have one qualified individual, basically we only have 4 ventilators, and that's a huge concern for us because the nearest critical facility is in Rapid City, which is a minimum of a 3-hour drive. So this is a big issue for us. The potential is there to really harm our people and the residents of this reservation. And like I've been saying on a daily basis, one just has to look at what's going on in Navajo. I mean, that could easily be us because we share the same overcrowded housing, no housing, overcrowded, high poverty, poor health. Everything that's happening there could easily be happening to a Sioux reservation up here in the Dakota. So we see that, we realize that. So we're just doing everything we can to take any preventive measures possible, and that is to monitor who comes and goes through our lands.
And like you said, I mean, there's pre-existing conditions like diabetes, high blood pressure, cancer rates, not to mention all the environmental toxicity from the pipelines and the mining and many other things that are going on reservations at your expense. So you don't really have much wiggle room because all it takes is somebody from outside coming in, like you said, and infecting a couple people, and it could spread like wildfire through your tribe.
Oh yeah, definitely. In many average homes here on the reservation, there's probably 10 to 18 to 20 people in every home at any given night. So it is the potential there to really harm us. So we're just doing every thing we can because right now we realize that the best weapon we have at this time is prevention, and that's why we put up these checkpoints, and that's why we'll continue to operate them to try to keep the virus away, and if it does come, we'll be able to track it when and so forth.
And is the governor threatening some type of force that if you don't agree to take down the checkpoints, they will come in and basically force you to?
Well, it's kind of interesting. The letter was out on the media when we received it, So we don't, and they gave us a time frame of 48 hours, so we're not sure when that is. And the other thing was threatened with some type of legal action, and so we're just kind of a little curious what that all means because in earlier years there has been cases that have been settled that said that the state has no jurisdiction on our lands. At one point, she has a brief. There's a briefing out there, and in that briefing, she tells the reporters that the state of South Dakota has no jurisdiction on a reservation. So, just kind of curious and dumbfounded on what could happen for us doing this. I mean, it's just kind of unreal. I mean, we look around and we see the number of positive cases climbing, increasing in South Dakota, and also then sadly the number of deaths. And we should be worrying about that and working and focusing on try to keep that at a minimum. But instead, we're here trying to deal with some because some travelers are a little upset because they slow down for maybe a minute or two of their day, and it just isn't right.
And what I find so crazy is, based on my reporting at Standing Rock where I met you and just researching this, I mean, you have a treaty. The treaty of the Fort Laramie Treaty in 1868, I believe it was. This is your land. So obviously the United States doesn't have a great track record of honoring these treaties, but I look at it as, who is she to tell you what to do with checkpoints if you have a treaty that is supposed to be the law of the land that says this is your land and property.
Yeah, that's why, again, I just want to say why we're kind of curious on what the state of South Dakota means that they're going to take some type of legal action. So we're like, well, what is that? Well, but I just going to telling our people that no matter, that's up to them. We're going to stay belligerent and just maintaining our course of action we're doing because it's working. I believe we have only one positive case. We were able to track it. We got it contained, and the patient's doing well, looking for a full recovery. So we're thankful for that, and hopefully by us continuing the things we're doing, that we'll be able to keep it at a very minimum and hopefully keep it off our lands. But, it's just a matter of time before it comes. But we're going to do our best to keep it away as long as we can.
And let me ask you, because obviously Navajo Nation has had more cases, but with the people sheltering in place, it's not like you guys have amazing internet connectivity out there for Zoom learning. There are limitations to, the nearest supermarkets and things that we take for granted out on the East Coast or the West Coast. On the reservation, what are some of the challenges you're dealing with, being that people have to stay at home? What are you guys? What is the biggest obstacles?
Right now, you kind of hit the nail on the head. It is food. It's supplies. We have, I'm just trying to think, probably 3 grocery stores on our reservation. Our reservation is 3.2 million acres, and it's been a big challenge to keep our shelves stocked. And I know the grocery owners our tribal grocery store, they've been working really hard and finding more suppliers, different suppliers, just to keep the food and the supplies coming in. So it has been a big challenge. And as we watch every day and looking at the numbers, more and more counties in South Dakota are getting more infected, and they're growing to be what they're deeming them community spread, where they don't know where the virus is at in that county. So, it is pretty alarming. It is. We're going through it's a lot harder to get the products that we normally do because a lot of our residents here do not travel to and leave the reservation. So that's been probably one of the biggest challenges is bringing in supplies and stuff.
And at the checkpoint, are you checking people's temperatures? What's being done at the checkpoints?
Well, there's just a lot of health questions. First they ask where you're going or where you're coming from. How do you feel? Do you have a fever? Have you been exposed to anybody with, COVID-19? And just a couple of questions dealing with health. And so it probably takes about around a minute, a little more, a little less to stop and fill out the questionnaire. But as a motorist, you're not filling it out. It's checkpoint deputies that are getting your information and filling it out for you.
And you said you have 6 ventilators. How many people do you have living on the reservation right now for the amount of ventilators? There's about 12,000 residents of this reservation. We started looking at it, in prior maybe a couple months ago when we looked. We have 12,000 residents. If half get it, that leaves 6,000. And they were telling us that 80% of the people can be at home. So that leaves 20%. So when you look at what's left over, it was around 1,200 beds that we would need. And we're looking like 1,200 beds, and we only have 8. And then we started looking out, further out to Rapid City, and they don't have that very many beds either. So that kind of prompted us to really look and really start taking a lot of these preventive measures. So if we do get at the point that we don't need a requirement of 1,200 beds. Yeah. And the original coronavirus package, $8 billion, was carved out for Native American tribes. But from reporting that's been out there, virtually nothing has actually gotten to tribes. Have you gotten any federal help?
As of right now, we have not received any of the funding from the $8 billion. We were a party. We were a plaintiff. We sued the Treasury. We wanted the tribes because of trying to give nearly half of that money to Alaska business corporations that are chartered under state. We felt that only federally recognized tribes should be eligible for money because we provide direct services to our people. And we know that the Alaska villages themselves, they deserve this money. We agree with it, but not these corporations. And as of today, a lot of tribes, I know the tribes in North Dakota, and now we're starting to get information. Some of the other South Dakota tribes have been contacted and informed how much money they're getting from this set aside. But as of today, our tribe has not ever been contacted. So we're still sitting here kind of wondering. So I don't know if it's because they're penalizing us for standing up. I don't know this. I hope not. But as of right now, we haven't got nothing out of the $8 billion set aside.
And obviously, the Keystone XL pipeline, which it's hard to keep up with. There's been so many times a judge knocks it down and then it gets reversed. What's the status right now? Because my fear is during a global pandemic, TransCanada, or whatever they're calling themselves now, will, as everyone's distracted, try to do construction and all that, even if a judge has told them they can't.
Yeah, as of right now, one good thing that we really were happy about was that where they took back all the water permits. So we're really glad about that, and because that's one of our biggest concerns, because they are planning to cross the Cheyenne River, and so right now we're pretty happy about that. But we're kind of been watching it too, because we realized that in the past that they have been, even though they don't have the legal authority to do construction, they have been doing little bits and pieces here and there. So we're kind of keeping an eye on them, and we are concerned, and hopefully that they don't go into full construction, because that will be definitely a pretty good challenge for us how to deal with that, and as well as trying to deal with this virus.
Mm-hmm. And speaking with someone from Navajo Nation, one of the challenges, life in the tribe is a huge part of it is the social aspect as well as the spiritual aspect has tribe members found it kind of difficult, being that such a large portion of life is being social and spiritual activities?
Yeah, that was something that is a big issue for us as well. Our White Buffalo calf pipekeeper, he made the announcement that, we shouldn't have any sun dances and stuff. So that has been pretty much a big letdown to a lot of our members and a lot of our people who do pray during the sun dance. So, yeah, it's kind of hindered us in a lot of the things and the ceremonies that we normally do throughout the summer and so forth. So, yeah, just kind of can't wait till this goes away.
Yeah. And lastly, how can my viewers help? Is there somewhere that food could be sent or other equipment?
Well, we do have a website. I guess, it's just whatever, and then I guess more or less just appreciate if people could send prayers our way and to stand with us the best they can. I guess with that, all that will be great.
All right. Thank you, Harold Frazier, the chairman of Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe. We'll stay in touch, and hopefully these numbers stay down like they have.
Yep. Thank you.
Take care. Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statuscoup.com where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statuscoup.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you.
Status Coup.
6 ventilators for 12,000 people on that reservation. And although the COVID count right now is extremely low, only one person, part of the reason it's extremely low is because of the checkpoints that the chairman, and the tribe have been doing that the batshit Republican governor is trying to shut down. So if that checkpoint is shut down and anybody is able to drive through their territory and their land as per treaties, all it takes is, one person actively carrying it to spread it through that whole community. We've seen this nationally. Coronavirus started with one person in China or wherever. So it's just amazing to me. Who is this governor to tell the tribe what they can and cannot do on their land to protect public health? They're not getting ample resources from the state. They're certainly not getting resources from the federal government. It's disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. We'll stay on it with Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe as well as other tribes and how they're being affected. At Status Coup, we try our best to cover indigenous issues, and part of why we're trying to raise money, by the way, thank you. Jared Kushner just left $50. Holy cow. Thank you, Jared Kushner. Anonymous, $36. We're getting all of the oligarchy today. Jared Kushner, Corn Pop, T-Bone, Tom Perez, Donald, thank you so much. Empress Nancy Pelosi, $10. Donna Brazil, 5-1. Guaido, Kelly Elaine, Mitch McConnell, Chuck Schumer, Joe Biden, Hillary, Trump. You're all watching. I literally have no idea who's making all these accounts, but the money's real, so thank you. We are now getting close. We're now almost, what would that be? 700 and, wait, no. Oh, I'm so bad at math. Yeah, $781 away. $781 away, I believe, till $101,000. So keep it coming if you can. We have another great interview coming up, so hopefully you guys stick around. Still got 400 viewers strong. Jordan missed my first 2 super chats. Sorry, Carl. Jen usually has a list for me that I could go to, but she's taken off for Mother's Day. Mana Talk, $10. People on the planet times 50 US dollars, create, produce, package, and distribute equals 380 trillion US dollars. Who will profit when we're forced to be vaccinated? Not you or I. Thank you, Mana. Don't really know what you're talking about, but I appreciate the $10. BK Bland, $5. Mini Wachoni. Thank you, Mini Wachoni, to you as well. Water is life. All right, let's get right along to our final interview with Ben Norton of the Gray Zone. He is actually in Nicaragua right now, so he's not even in the U.S. dealing with coronavirus. But I spoke with him about, did you know that Trump and the U.S. government another failed raid on Maduro as coronavirus pandemic is going on? You just can't make this stuff up. So we spoke about that. We spoke about Russiagate, China as well. A lot of anti-China rhetoric going on. Definitely keep it coming in the GoFundMe, Super Chat, as this interview airs. Here is my interview with the Gray Zone's Ben Norton. Hey, it's Jordan, joined by Ben Norton of the Gray Zone. He is an encyclopedia of all things military-industrial complex, regime change, capitalist death cult, and many other things. I wanted to talk to you because it seems that under the cloak of a deadly pandemic, Trump and the deep state around him, they say they're not involved, but I think we all know better, were trying to basically do a forced, aggressive coup of Maduro, which involved like Green Berets and a boat mission and all this stuff that you think would be out of a really bad Amazon, John Clancy show. Can you kind of describe for the audience what happened? Because there was an attempted effort to take down Maduro recently, and the U.S. was definitely involved.
Well, thanks for having me, Jordan. One quick thing, you mentioned capitalism being a death cult. I mean, we've known that for a long time, but really it can't be any clearer right now where the U.S. government and various governors are telling people they have to sacrifice their lives and the lives of their loved ones, especially older relatives, to the god of the free market in order to revive the economy. It used to kind of be a sarcastic joke, but at this point, I mean, it's literally a death cult. And speaking of being a death cult, we have also seen how during this pandemic, where upward of 3,000 Americans are dying per day, at least at the peak. Meanwhile, the U.S. government, what is it doing? It's not providing testing. It's not providing protective equipment. It's certainly not taking the measures needed to actually protect its population. Instead, the U.S. government has been ramping up its regime change strategy against Venezuela, Iran, Nicaragua, many other countries. I've been living here in Nicaragua, actually moved here before the coronavirus pandemic, and in the middle of this pandemic, the U.S. government has ratcheted up multiple times sanctions against Nicaragua, trying to destabilize the democratically elected socialist government here. And then pretty close to us, over in Venezuela, very similar story. We've seen that the Trump administration has deployed naval ships, and it's actually, the U.S. now has the largest naval presence in Latin America in decades. And of course, that naval presence is there right off the coast of Venezuela to threaten Venezuela. The U.S. government is saying that it's there for a counter-drug mission, which is hilarious because everyone in the world knows that it's not Venezuela, but it's next-door neighbor to the left of it, Colombia, that is actually responsible for the vast majority of the drug trade. That's not just my opinion. The United Nations has said that more than 70% of coca production, which is used to create cocaine, comes from Colombia. And actually, the U.S. government, the DSA, the Drug Enforcement Administration, even they have said that they know that the vast majority of drugs in Latin America come from the zone near Colombia, and also to a lesser extent Bolivia and Peru, which border Colombia. So the U.S. has been using the strategy claiming that Venezuela is trafficking drugs, which is genuinely insane, absolutely false, as justification to militarily intervene in Venezuela. And we just saw this past week, in early May, the total bungled, botched operation where upward probably around 60 Venezuelan and Colombian forces with 2 former U.S. veterans, former Special Operations Forces, were caught in Venezuela trying to launch this coup attempt, trying to launch an attack. So we can talk more about the specifics of it, but that was just kind of the background of how, and just how it really is a death cult in the middle of this horrific pandemic where now something like 80,000 Americans have died almost. The Trump administration is not actually trying to save its own citizens. It's trying to kill more Venezuelans.
Well, obviously Trump denied it. He acted like he didn't know anything about it. These Green Berets are attached to a company in Florida. But what I don't understand is what justification could this company have to even try a type of mission right now during this pandemic where so many people are dying? I mean, there wouldn't be a justification anyway because Maduro was elected. The neoliberals can say he wasn't, but he was. But what did the folks say that they were trying to do?
Well, what they said is one thing, right? And then what the actual answer probably is another. So the Trump administration, of course, is denying any involvement, which is ridiculous. I mean, this is like in those stupid spy movies where the U.S. government, the CIA, whatever, tells their assets that they're working with, if you get caught, we have nothing to do with you. Plausible deniability, you're a lone wolf, you're a ragtag team that was operating independently, and we're cutting all ties. That's clearly what happened here. It's very obvious, and we'll talk about why in a bit. We know that the U.S. government was behind this operation, and specifically the State Department of Mike Pompeo, who's like a cartoon Monopoly man villain. I mean, he's just so cartoonishly evil. And a few days before this botched operation, Mike Pompeo gave a very strange State Department press briefing in which he made this comment saying, "We are reopening the U.S. Embassy in Venezuela very soon, and very soon the U.S. flag is going to be flying once again inside Caracas." And people didn't really know what he was talking about. Also, around the same time, a few days before the operation, John Bolton, the neocon war criminal who has the blood of a million Iraqis on his hand for, in the George Bush years, orchestrating the Iraq war, and then, of course, he became Trump's national security advisor. Technically, Bolton has been out. He's no longer a NatSec advisor, but he's clearly involved in the Venezuela coup operations because he tweeted saying that morning is coming again to Venezuela. So he clearly knew that something was happening. And it failed. So then the Trump administration said, we had nothing to do with it. It was a lone wolf operation. Now, why did they do it now? That's the question you asked. I think there are two main reasons. One of the main reasons is they actually didn't plan on doing it now. Venezuela, the government has a lot of very advanced intelligence sources, not only nationally but also internationally, and they don't talk about it, but it's very likely Cuban intelligence. Cuba has very sophisticated intelligence services, and they work with Venezuela. Venezuela also has pretty good intelligence services, and Venezuela had infiltrated these coup operatives from the very beginning. So Maduro gave a speech which was honestly like pretty alpha. And in his speech a few days after the botched operation, he said, "We knew everything about the golpistas, like the coup mongers. We knew everything. We knew what they ate, what they didn't eat, where they slept." He said all these things because they were so thoroughly infiltrated. So Venezuela says that they know that originally the operation was planned for early March. And what happened was it was planned for early March, and then there were problems because of coronavirus. So they delayed the operation and they kept delaying it. And then eventually what happened was this operation was being planned inside Colombia. And dozens, probably 60, but actually upward of 400 forces allegedly. And we'll talk about why the numbers are not entirely known. But between 60 and 400 forces were being trained inside Colombia. And of course, the U.S. was involved in that, although it's denying it, and the Colombian government was involved in it. I mean, obviously, you can't run a paramilitary training camp inside Colombian territory without the Colombian government knowing it. Mm-hmm. But what happened was it was originally planned for March, and it got delayed. So the president of Colombia, who's a far-right extremist, Ivan Duque, he had a meeting with Trump at the White House. This meeting is a matter of public record. You can go to the White House website and find the press briefing. And in the press briefing, Trump and Duque acknowledged, they were asked by a journalist, are you going to talk about Venezuela? And of course, Trump and Duque responded saying, yes, Venezuela is the most important issue we're discussing. And according to intelligence cited by Venezuela, they say that they actually obtained a recording of the private meeting between Duque and Trump. So they clearly have very high-level intelligence services. And they say that in that meeting in March between Trump and Duque, the only issue they discussed was Venezuela, and it was that operation. And Trump told Duque, do not cancel the operation because of coronavirus. If anything, coronavirus gives us better cover, more plausible deniability, and it can also be a distraction, of course, from political problems at home. So Trump told Duque, set Venezuela on fire, according to Venezuelan intelligence services that intercepted the meeting. So then Duque immediately went back to Colombia, and he told the forces, continue the operation, go forward with the operation. So I think one of the main reasons that it was so botched and it failed so miserably was not only because Venezuela had infiltrated it so much, but also because the plan kind of got out of control, it got disorganized because of coronavirus. But Trump wanted to continue because the Trump administration is obsessed with overthrowing Venezuela and getting access to all of its oil, but also because it's a convenient political distraction during this massive scandal at home where tens of thousands of Americans are dying. And of course, it helped fuel Trump's base in Florida, the right-wing Venezuelan, Cuban, right-wing Latinos who are a very key constituency if Trump wants to win re-election.
And I would assume more so now with, obviously it was planned for before coronavirus became the dominant story, but I would assume Trump wanted it to go through as soon as possible because he's seeing the job claims. He's seeing, levels we haven't seen since the Great Depression. And in Trump's mind, and probably Bolton and all these neocon warmongers, how do we get out of this economic ruin before November? We got to get Maduro out of there as quickly as possible and get that oil. Am I hot? Am I cold?
No, that's absolutely right. I think that's definitely I don't think that's the only reason, but I think that's definitely one of the reasons. Because, of course, this is an election year. And, the Democrats have accomplished the impossible, finding a candidate worse than Hillary Clinton. And I don't think it's very likely that Biden can beat Trump. And, you've talked about that a lot. But definitely, he's still facing a lot of political pressure in a key election year. So Trump wants to draw attention away. But also at the same time, I think we should keep in mind that I'm not in any way trying to downplay Trump's role. I think Trump definitely is involved, and it's clear from the intelligence that Venezuela has gathered that he green-lighted this operation. But also let's keep in mind that Mike Pompeo is the guy overseeing a lot of this. And Mike Pompeo is totally a fanatic. He is absolutely sociopathic. This is a guy who, of course, joked when he was CIA director that he said, as CIA director, all we did was we taught people to lie, we cheated, we stole, and he's joking about that. This is a guy who gets off on regime change and war. This is a guy who has been fantasizing about doing the same thing to Iran. And let's also not forget that Pompeo, unlike Trump, Pompeo is a diehard evangelical extremist. Pompeo genuinely believes that we're the last generation of humans on Earth. He's like Mike Pence. He's one of the apocalyptic evangelical end timers, and he talks about the rapture. So this is a guy who is genuinely a fanatic, and he desperately wants to overthrow the Venezuelan government and install one of these right-wing puppets.
Speaking of right-wing
it's not
puppets,
just Trump. He's surrounded by a bunch of fanatics.
Speaking of right-wing puppets, did Juan Guaido, the quote-unquote president of Venezuela, according to Nancy Pelosi and all these people who, they say, America, the Constitution, but apparently that doesn't matter in other countries. Did Juan Guaido have any role in this?
Well, not only did they consider Guaido the supposed president, even Vice News, the hipster imperialists at Vice, did a very friendly interview with so-called President Guaido, who doesn't control anything. That's a really good question. Now, if you asked him, he says no. I think really quickly there's something important to unpack here. What I'm saying is not the corporate media's narrative. Surprise, surprise. The corporate media narrative is that this was a lone wolf operation that had nothing to do with the Trump administration.
Sure.
This is the narrative being constructed by the Associated Press. The AP has published 2 really big stories on this, interviewing supposedly 30 people involved in the operation, and it came out immediately when the operation failed, which makes you wonder, wait, if AP had interviewed 30 people involved in the operation and it came out immediately after it failed, they've been sitting on this piece for a while, which means that they've been in touch with these coup operatives. So clearly, the Associated Press has been working, kind of in tandem with these coup mongers in the operation, waiting to release the story. And then when it fell apart, they had, they changed a few details. Like how sometimes journalists they'll write a story about someone dropping out of the race, or they'll write an obituary, and then when it happens, they'll release it.
Right.
So there's some shady ties there between the AP and these operatives, and the AP is the one giving these operatives voice and to deny the involvement of the U.S. government in any way. And Guaido, of course, is saying that he had nothing to do with it, that not only was it not a U.S. government operation, that he and his people, the people around him, had nothing to do with it, even though, really quickly, I'll talk about you mentioned the U.S. paramilitary group. This is called Silver Corps, and this is itself hilarious. I mean, talk about just total incompetence. But Silver Corps is this very small, so-called security firm, which is just a mercenary firm, run by a former special operations officer, Jordan Goudreau. And Goudreau is another weird character. He's the guy people laughed at for being this guy who had all of this stuff he just posted on Instagram of all these meathead jock bros who were all the former special operations dudes behind this operation. And he just posted all this stuff on Twitter and Instagram. So Goudreau signed a contract with Guaido, and Goudreau has the physical contract which he has released. Guaido says that it's false, but of course he's going to deny it. And Goudreau says that he was offered $220 million by Guaido's people in order to carry out this entire operation, to pay him and all of the men. And he says that he was training 400 men. So the differences go between 60 and 400. So people are saying that it was only 8. No, only 8 were captured at first, and then more were captured and more were captured. At this point, several dozen people have been captured who were involved. So it was a bigger operation than people are pretending, upward of 400. Videos released showing they had tons of weapons, tons of ammunition. They were planning on actually invading the country, and then the strategy was to take over, to fight. The strategy is a guerrilla war, right? The strategy is to invade in one part, take over a military barracks, and then steal all of the weapons, and then use those to continue moving forward in a kind of guerrilla war campaign. But the Venezuelan intelligence services nipped it in the butt because they had infiltrated the forces. But going back to Guaido signed this contract, and then also Goudreau, who is the U.S. paramilitary former special operations operative, he released the contract, and also he did an interview with a Venezuelan opposition journalist based in Miami who, not to overcomplicate it, but who is also a right-wing opposition activist, but who doesn't like Guaido, because the Venezuelan opposition is so disorganized. They can't organize anything, obviously. All they can do is just do what the U.S. government gives them on a silver platter. And they all hate each other, and there's all this internecine fighting. So another member of the opposition who hates Guaido did an interview with this paramilitary leader, Goudreau, and she released an audio recording with Guaido. And it's obviously Guaido's voice, speaking in English, talking with Goudreau, thanking him for organizing the operation, and saying that they had his blessing and that he was going to sign it off. So it's absolutely clear that Guaido is involved. And the last note I'll mention here is Guaido doesn't control the money from Venezuela without the permission of the U.S. government. The U.S. government is the one that stole Venezuelan government assets in the U.S. and then gave them to Guaido, saying that that is now the property of the so-called Venezuelan interim government, including Venezuela's largest foreign-owned asset, which is called Citgo, which is, people might have seen like the Citgo gas stations. It's a massive oil refinery company, and that this is Venezuela's largest foreign-owned asset worth billions of dollars. So that was stolen, and basically it's going to be liquidated and privatized, and it was handed over to Guaido to fund the coup operations. So clearly, in the contract, he said that $220 million sum that he was offering, where was that money going to come from? It was going to come from the oil money that he would sell when he was installed as president.
Oh my God.
That's the money they offered to the coup operatives. And the only way that he could do that, of course, is through the U.S. government. So it's very clear the U.S. and Guaido and the mercenary firm were involved in this. It was not a lone wolf operation, despite what AP wants you to believe.
And by the way, it's not like if Joe Biden is elected president, all of a sudden, we'll leave Venezuela alone. I want to pivot. You are very knowledgeable about China. A lot of the, what's fact, what's fiction, as far as the propaganda against China. Trump is obviously escalating the blame game on China, which is now increasing, a lot of hate, and there's reports of more and more hate and crime that is going on here against Chinese Americans. What are your thoughts on China's role? It seems to me they did a hell of a lot better job than we did at stopping the virus spread once it spread. I said a lot of civil libertarians didn't like it, that we should have done a lockdown like these other countries. It just doesn't make sense to me that we had these different states doing different things. What is fact versus fiction on China's role? But more importantly, the growing narrative that the Trump administration is setting.
Well, objectively speaking, if you ask the rest of the world, China is helping to fight against the coronavirus, while the U.S. is basically doing nothing, and in some countries making it worse. We were talking about Venezuela. Also in Iran, really quickly, the U.S. has been increasing its sanctions against Iran right in the middle of this pandemic. Iran asked for an exception to the sanctions for humanitarian assistance. The U.S. government denied it. So the U.S. government has been intentionally trying to make the coronavirus pandemic in Iran worse, trying to kill more people. And by the way, the ultimate irony of that is, even though the U.S. government was trying to make it worse, in Iran, although several thousand people have died, it's still not nearly as bad, nowhere near as bad as the outbreak in the U.S. So, that goes to show that even when the U.S. is trying to destroy other countries, in some ways, it actually doesn't destroy them as well as it destroys its own people through sheer negligence of providing no services, of privatizing everything, of just emptying out this entire country of social services. In terms of China, the last week or so, the latest number I saw was that China had sent medical assistance during the pandemic to 89 countries. It's probably higher now. So nearly half of the countries in the world, including the U.S., have received medical assistance especially protective equipment from China. And what has the U.S. been doing? I mean, the Trump administration has been stealing protective equipment from its own allies, even from Canada. So and also, to be fair, not just the U.S., several European countries, including Germany, have also been stealing protective equipment from other countries. So it's been a complete disaster. And ironically, we saw this when in Europe, there are members of the European Union who have said that European solidarity is a myth. In Italy, which is a member of the European Union, of course, Italy has been really hard hit, and Italy has not received any assistance from the European Union. Not only that, the European Commission, which is basically, they're just the bankers who run the European Union, which is just a cartel of oligarchs and capitalists and bankers that run Europe, and largely backed by the European Central Bank, which is largely backed by the German Central Bank. The European Commission, a leftist economist in Europe went through all of the European Commission's measures and found that the European Commission over the past several years had requested measures to privatize and cut socialized health systems in Europe nearly 70 times in the past several years. So the European Commission has been doing not only nothing, it has actually been actively hurting health systems in Europe by pressuring them to privatize their socialized health systems. And as we see in Italy, one of the reasons Italy was hit so hard is because it had a very old population, but also because over the past several decades, they've imposed so many neoliberal measures, cutting their once robust healthcare system, that it cut it down to the bone. And
same thing in Great Britain, where the conservatives have been trying to destroy the NHS.
That's exactly right. And the NHS had to pay private hospitals insane, like millions of pounds, so millions of dollars, millions of pounds every single day to use private beds in hospitals, because so much of the NHS has been privatized and will continue to be privatized under Boris Johnson. But going back to China helped Italy when even the European Union has done nothing. And famously, Serbia, which ironically has a right-wing government, but even Serbia's right-wing government said, European solidarity is a myth. We are thanking China because China is the only country that's helped us. So China clearly has its act together. China has a massive, massive universal health system that is absolutely integrated by the state. And they took very aggressive measures, and they managed to deal with the virus much better than not only the US, but even England, France, Italy. So, there's a lot of anti-China propaganda talking points right now, but the reason the World Health Organization has been praising China is not because China controls the WHO. It's because China's response has actually been, from a scientific perspective, effective. Fewer Chinese have died than Americans, than French, than even I think Canadians are approaching that level. They're not at that level yet, but a lot of Canadians have died too. And Canada has actually obviously a much better health system than the US. So yeah, people were criticizing China for being maybe too aggressive, but they managed to deal with it very effectively. And now there's some video that's been surfacing. It's incredible. China just reopened schools again. And there's this video of this little kid. You can find it on Twitter. It went viral. This little student in China going to school. And when he goes to school, he walks through, he's given like hand sanitizer. And then he's like given this like steam thing to kill the germs on him. And then he like goes to this other machine that like cleans his hands again. And then he like puts his eyes in this little cute little robot thing to measure his temperature. And then he goes inside the school. So, I mean, they have this futuristic technology, and they're actually using it to surprise, to help public health and to stop a pandemic. Whereas in the U.S., Anytime we have a technological breakthrough, it's so we can have a new iPhone that breaks in 2 years, so you have to buy another iPhone.
And what do you say to people that will, there are a lot of people that will respond to this kind of rhetoric as this guy's a China propagandist, and this was hatched in a lab in Wuhan, whether intentional or experimental, intentional or accidental, they started it. I mean, obviously it did start in China, but to me, China, as opposed to America, when China causes a major, disastrous death count, at least they're trying to stop it and at least as best as they can help the rest of the world. Whereas when America invades countries wrongly, kills 1 million Iraqis, we just double and triple down.
That's definitely right. I mean, first of all, what I say to them, grow up. I mean, come on, are you serious? This is just like classic scapegoating. It's like Russiagate, but honestly much more dangerous. Russiagate was dumb and it was a distraction, but we're talking about global health, and now the Trump administration is defunding the World Health Organization, and there's this full frontal attack on public health programs, this idea that the lockdown is a Chinese strategy to destroy the U.S. economy. There's like all this anti-vax sentiment now. This is very dangerous. Public health is something very serious. And yeah, whatever, people can have their libertarian, civil libertarian views, but you can't have those views actually infringe on public health problems. This is a problem of a dangerous pandemic that could kill many thousands of more people. So we need to take it very seriously. It's not a matter of free speech or something. Now, a few things in response to what you also asked. We actually don't know if it originated in China. There's still debate about that. I think it's possible it could have originated in China, but there's now more and more evidence suggesting that it actually circulated, especially in Seattle, in Washington State, on the West Coast for months before it was known. It also apparently circulated in Ohio for months before it was known. And also France has said that they think that it was circulating in France perhaps as early as November or even earlier. So we don't really know where it came from yet.
To tell you the truth, I think I had it earlier, because in February I was traveling still with the campaign on the campaign trail. I came back, I was in my girlfriend's apartment, and I just had this really bad cold for like a week. I didn't have a fever, but it was like the worst cold I could have. I barely could get out of bed. So I don't know. I don't know if it was I had it in my system then, and then it escalated as it spread. So yeah, go on.
I think I might have too. When I was in New York in like January or so, I had a really bad cough. One of the worst coughs I've had in a long time. And I felt really bad. I had a fever for like a week. So who knows? The thing that's not, I mean, of course, eventually you do want to know where it came from, because that's going to help prevent this kind of thing in the future. But the most important thing is what we can do to stop it. But this idea that it came from a Chinese lab is also hilarious, because now other U.S. allies are saying they don't believe it at all. France was the first one to come out and say that they don't believe that at all. It did not come from a Chinese lab. And then some of the response of the Trumpist types was, well, France had an agreement working in Wuhan with Chinese companies and Chinese universities to do scientific research. Well, then the response to that is, so did the U.S. government, by the way. The U.S. government also, a lot of governments around the world have joint research together to fight infectious diseases and viruses. That's called public health research. So the U.S. and France also had research programs involved in Wuhan in these universities, including the Institute for Virology, which is where the conspiracy theory comes from. And then recently, a few days ago, the German government, Germany has come out saying that they don't believe it at all, that this came from a Chinese lab. So where did that conspiracy come from? Well, we now know that this is actually being pushed by the Trump administration itself. And my colleague Max Blumenthal went through, and another colleague Ajit Singh went through looking at all of the so-called evidence, including the State Department file that this supposedly came from. Now, the Washington Post, the Bezos Post rather, published this article trying to blame China. And who wrote it? It's this guy, Josh Rogin. Josh Rogan is a neocon, strong supporter of every war, the Iraq War, the Libya War, the Syria War. In fact, Josh Rogan was trying to pressure Trump from the right, saying that Trump should stay in Syria to steal its oil. And he wrote an article saying that in 2017. And then a year or two later, Trump was like, we're going to stay in Syria to steal its oil. So this is a neocon. And he's the one who obtained this leaked State Department cable, but he didn't publish the full State Department cable. He only published one part of the State Department cable, which, according to scientific experts, is misleading. And on Twitter, you can find all of these American scientific experts on infectious diseases and virology, and including some people from Columbia University, and they were all criticizing him on Twitter, this Washington Post so-called reporter, saying that he was misrepresenting the science. And then his response was, wah, 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 I'm a journalist, I'm not going to release my sources. And they were like, you have to release the document. And he was like, no, I'm not responding anymore. So these are the childish propagandists who are pushing this conspiracy theory, which is being used by the Trump administration and Fox News to try to scapegoat China. And then finally that brings us to the 2020 election, which unfortunately, like it or not, this is going to be all the anti-China election. And we've already seen that Trump and Biden are just going to compete to see who can be more anti-China.
Well, I think Biden might have a tough time since his son has made a lot of money. I know he was on a board in Ukraine, but he also has made a lot of money from China because of his name.
He's an equal opportunity corrupt. Corrupt guy. He'll take money from any country.
Yeah. And lastly, speaking of conspiracy theories, I know, with all due respect to you, you're no Aaron Mate on this, but you know your stuff. I'm trying to speak with Aaron, but he's a tough guy to get a hold of. This is getting completely lost. Of course, the media is not going to cover it, but literally, documents just came out that the CEO of CrowdStrike, which was the independent, so-called independent third-party security firm that the DNC and the Rachel Maddow and the whole entire Russiagate hysteria complex cited as they found that they proved that Russia had hacked the DNC. Credit where credit is due. I always said I find no conclusive evidence of this. I see no forensic evidence of this. But Aaron and Glenn Greenwald and Jimmy Dore and a lot of others, including yourself, agreed. Now, documents come out that the CEO, in testimony with Adam Schiff, said, and I quote, "We did not have concrete evidence that data was exfiltrated from the DNC, but we have indicators that it was exfiltrated." I give you the floor.
First of all, I just love all those euphemisms. They like love pretending like there is some spy novel. Exfiltrated. We have indicators. I mean, that's just all a bunch of euphemisms for saying we have nothing. We think we might have an idea. We have some hints. Indicators, hints, but we got nothing. So this is not surprising to any of us, of course. The question is, why is this coming out now? The House Intelligence Committee just released it, or the Senate Intelligence Committee, the House Intelligence Committee just released it. So why did they wait so long? I think they waited so long because they know that it's definitely a bombshell that exposes that they don't really have anything. But this also goes back years. I remember during the 2016 campaign, I remember very vividly one of the key details that still does not get brought up enough. People say, well, what did the FBI find when it investigated the DNC computer? The FBI never investigated the DNC computer. It was destroyed.
Because the DNC wouldn't let them. Yeah.
That's a very normal thing to do when you're about to be investigated and you said that you were hacked by the Russians. What do you do with your computer? You don't show it to the FBI. You fucking destroy it. What? I don't know if I can cuss. Sorry.
Yeah, it's fine.
So.
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
I remember Donna Brazil. Her and I had an encounter, and it was like her brain was hacked. She was just like, the Russians, they did it. And to me, I mean, I think Russia tried to mess with our election through social media, blah, 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 just like we do theirs and every other country we try and interfere with. This is a known thing. But there was never, ever there was never, I mean, I'm not a technical person, but I read a lot of technical stories through on Wired and other places. And the main thing they were citing was this CrowdStrike. And, you know, it's just kind of a known thing when you hire third-party consultants, whether it's environmental, nuclear, security, they generally want to find a conclusion that satisfies the person paying them. So there was never any like actual fingerprints. You know, they talked about what was it, Cozy Bear and all these things, but it never made any sense to me. And now they're saying, and I quote, "We have indicators that Russia hacked the DNC." Well, you have to tell me how does Rachel Maddow keep her job? How do these people keep their jobs? This is, and this, thank God, didn't kill anyone. This is not Iraq, but it certainly created, I mean, you're talking at this point, hundreds of millions, maybe more than that, of media advertising for a falsehood. Through Rachel Maddow, the Washington Post, all of the stories on this that basically, as its premise, the floor of the story was Russia hacked the DNC.
Yeah, I mean, you put it very well, and it's a huge scandal. How do these people keep their jobs? Well, they keep their jobs because their job was to spread this conspiracy theory because it was convenient for the DNC. And as long as they're convenient to the DNC, as long as they continue to toe the party line and spew the corporate propaganda that their corporate sponsors want, they'll keep their plushy jobs. Now, as for the so-called hack, and by the way, Julian Assange and WikiLeaks have still maintained that it might have been a leak. We don't know if it was a leak in the DNC. It could have been a hack. I'm agnostic. It could have been a hack. But getting back to CrowdStrike, CrowdStrike is the perfect example of the grift. I mean, the grift of people like Rachel Maddow is more clear. That's not a very respectable grift. That's just a very blatant, blunt, unnuanced grift. The grift of these so-called cybersecurity firms, honestly, you kind of have to respect just how cynical these people are. The way this grift works is the people who run these cybersecurity firms are former intelligence officers. They worked in the military. They work in, you know, the deep state, the national security state in some kind of capacity. And then they retire, and then they go and form a private cybersecurity firm, and then they bill the Senate Intelligence Committee or House Intelligence Committee or U.S. government, whatever the government institution that seeks the veneer of legitimacy from a so-called independent firm, they will hire one of these firms that is run by one of their friends who they know from their time in the CIA or FBI or whatever, and they will hire them out and pay them $10 million or whatever, enriching their friends. The people who retired and formed the cybersecurity company will make 10 times what they used to make when they were in the government. So everyone makes out, they all make money. And then, of course, the report that the so-called cybersecurity firm writes, it's just all they're doing is trying to find the so-called evidence to prove the thesis that they already had. So it's not really an investigation. They're just trying to find the so-called indicators to prove something that they don't actually have firm evidence for. And it's not just them. The FBI itself had as many resources as it wanted. They're not limited like a private company. This is the FBI. And in Mueller's report, he said very clearly there was a lot of, as Aaron Mate, as he's pointed out in his articles and his tweets, there was a lot of very ambiguous language, euphemistic language, saying they weren't really sure that Russia hacked the DNC. They thought that it was probable, but it was not conclusive. And this is the FBI in its official report, the Mueller investigation. So at the end of the day, look, I think we have to think about these firms the same way we think about Rachel Maddow. They're just grifters. And the difference is they have this veneer of independence, but they're all run by former intelligence operatives and military officers, and they're just making tons of money. And that's how the entire grift in Washington works. Anyone who spent some time in Washington knows how it works, where these people work in the military, they work in Capitol Hill, they work in government, And then after 10, 15, 20 years, they retire, they move out into the suburbs of Virginia or Maryland, and they work for some private company, a consultant group, a private security firm or whatever, and they make tons of money just doing basically outsourced work that the government wants done.
And CrowdStrike is benefiting even more because, as I found, in 2019, they got paid $78,000 from the DNC. And I'm sure this year they're going to be getting paid quite a lot for what might be a virtual convention. We don't know at this point. So, Ben Norton, thank you as always for the knowledge. Stay safe. Enjoy that free health care and education in Nicaragua, as well as the sun. And check Ben, Aaron, Max, and others over at thegrayzone.com.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jordan. And I swear Jordan did not tell me to say this, but I just want to congratulate you again on the awesome reporting that you have all been doing in general, but especially on Flint. And that's a key story. Thanks for not letting that die. And thanks for keeping the fight going. It's hard, but it's good to know that, we have the Gray Zone and you will have Status Coup, and we're all in the same struggle. So keep up the good work.
Thanks, Ben. Appreciate that. Take care.
Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statuscoup.com where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statuscoup.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you.
That was Ben Norton of the Gray Zone. Great interview, and we'll post all these interviews tomorrow on Tuesday. My interview with Ben, my interview with Harold Frazier of Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe, and my interview with Paula Jean Swearingen, the West Virginia Senate candidate. It was a great marathon today. I think we're about to hit 3 hours. Got to go do some weekending, I guess. I'm going to take a little bit of a walk with a mask. Stay safe, everybody. Thank you to everybody who watched today. We kept a steady audience. Let's see what we're finishing at. We are at $100,000 and $100,301. So we raised, I think, on GoFundMe about $300, and Super Chat raised a couple hundred more bucks. So always awesome to see people contributing. Like I said, we are understand totally for those that can't donate right now. Obviously, people losing their jobs, getting their hours cut, or afraid of losing their jobs. So if you can't support us financially, we totally understand. If you can, it really helps us keep the lights on. We also have some needs, including probably a new laptop, because mine can no longer go live without severe buffering and other tech issues. We also need to pour in some money for advertising. If you haven't noticed, we've been stuck on YouTube because YouTube is throttling the hell out of our channel. So we're going to spend some more money on advertising to get the word out that Status Coup exists, which a lot of people do not know Status Coup exists. So definitely, if you can, contribute via GoFundMe. We really appreciate any donation. Please post the Nina Turner interview. We posted it days ago, Robruz. The Nina Turner interview is up. So you could just go click on videos, you'll find it. So we already posted that. I think Fox News actually did a story on our interview with Nina Turner. It's kind of sad, right, that we have to depend on Fox News, the Republican propaganda network, to cover when one of Bernie Sanders' top campaign officials basically called for a hostage-taking situation, called for the progressives to take the Democratic Party hostage. Kind of newsworthy, I would say, but shockingly, the other outlets didn't pick it up. Fox did, so I guess we appreciate that. Vicky Blair, $20. Thanks for you for amazing interviews. By the way, I did two of these interviews on Saturday, one of them on Friday, so I'm working on the weekend so you guys could stay informed. So definitely contribute if you can. Jameson Doan, $5. FYI, Jordan, Ben is wrong regarding hack. Bill Benny, top CIA codebreaker, pointed out download speed makes it technologically impossible to have been a hack. I don't think he was wrong. He said it's possible, but he never saw any evidence. But I do know what you're talking about as well, as far as Bill Benny saying it was impossible. Thanks for the knowledge and the super chat. Thank you, blah, 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 blah. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. Going to do a little bit of a walk, maybe some exercise. I just stretched a little bit while this interview was playing, so that's the benefit of long interviews. You could kind of do some things while you guys get the knowledge. I'll be back tomorrow. I think Jordan is too low in the frame. Camera should point at his nose, not his forehead. I don't know. Looks good to me. But we'll work on it. Let me see if I'm missing anything before I go. Oh, a few things, because I want to make sure people know. Make sure you follow us on Instagram.com/Status Coup. We're trying to grow there. Instagram.com/Status Coup. Also, sign up for Twitch. We're trying to grow on different platforms, so we're not completely reliant on YouTube. So if you're not on Twitch, twitch.tv/Status Coup. That's twitch.tv/Status Coup. We're live there as well as on YouTube right now. And also, if you haven't yet, join our text list. You could text 370-370. That's 370-370. Type in COUP. That's COUP to join our text list. We sent a text out for this live stream, and we're going to try and send out text for as many live streams as we can. It's actually costing us money to send out text messages. Right now, it's costing us anywhere between $30 and $40 each text message, but we have to get around this YouTube suppression because YouTube is not sending notifications the majority of the time. Shame Twitch has to be used since Amazon owns them. Yep, I agree. Not a fan. As you can see, I'm not a fan of Amazon. If you didn't notice my shirt today, proud of it. But got to use the platforms that we can, and right now, Twitch, right now, is not being suppressed like YouTube is suppressing independent media. Thank you for the $10. Rich, awesome group. March on. Pleasure to have shared time with you all. Thank you, Rich. And if you're not subscribed to this channel, for those of you that haven't subscribed, click subscribe under the video and click the bell for all notifications. David, $14.99. Your video with Nina I posted on Nina's Facebook has over 200 likes. David, thank you for that. Really appreciate it. You know, my girlfriend has been posting a lot of our videos on Reddit and Facebook, and we're starting to get more likes, so we need to spread the word. So if you are already a member of the Coup, spread the community elsewhere. Spread our videos on Reddit. Spread our videos on Twitter. Spread our videos on Facebook. Even though Facebook and all these platforms are suppressing us, spread the Coup. On Twitch, on Rockfin. We are on Rockfin as well. Jordan, did you buy the shirt from Amazon? No, I feel really bad because I forget the company that sent me this shirt. It's a company that sent me this and MSDNC, the MSDNC shirt. For those, if any of you know which, let me see which company makes the MSDNC shirt. MSDNC, DNC shirt. Who makes this? Oh, it's Thinkly. Yeah, Thinkly. Thinkly sent me this shirt, so I did not buy it on Amazon. I did not buy it on Amazon. Jordan probably made the shirt himself. You think I know how to stitch or make a shirt? Please. But I'm trying to order a lot less from Amazon, only when I absolutely need to, and I say you should do the same. Fuck Jeff Bezos. By the way, I left this out. This is from Warren Gunnels, Bernie's senior advisor. In the past day, the 8 richest men in the United Corporations of America increased their wealth by $6.2 billion. So during the global pandemic, Mark Zuckerberg up $1 billion in one day. Bill Gates up $931 million in one day. Jeff Bezos up $907 million in one day. Warren Buffett up $429 million in one day. While the rest of us are facing unemployment, more and more food lines at food banks, over 30 million without health care on top of the 29 million people that didn't have health care already. So now we're facing over 50 million without health insurance, not to mention the tens of millions of others underinsured. And as the great Colin Tooley showed,
as we sink like the Titanic, the working class sink like the Titanic. Ugh. The bourgeoisie, the oligarchy, the plutocrats, they're popping their champagne watching us sink. Wonderful graphic by Colin Tooley. I mean, it's just disgusting. It's just disgusting. Text message worked for me, Jordan. Thanks. Glad it worked, Ty Andrews. So, that's it for today. I'll be back tomorrow around 4:30 Eastern Time. Of course, I'll come live earlier if something breaks. Remember, most people are not lacking compassion in this country. Most people have no earthly idea what is going on. Peace out.